Man, listening to that at night hits a little different, but I still like it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. However, you happen to be watching and or listening to this, this is a special episode of GCP, and we're recording it at a different time. This is not going to be a live show. I'm your host, K Asante, TKO Asante, and all the places we communicate. And of course, you see, I am not joined by the Everborn Saga because life happens, ladies and gentlemen, and it is what it is. But I am joined by great community members in their own right, and I will introduce them right now because we are here for that Starfield spoiler talk. We're going to get into it. Now, be warned, this is called GCP Presents Starfield Spoiled because we will spoil everything. We won't start there, but we will end there. So be fair warned. That is why this is not going to be live streamed, and it will be copious places you will see it says spoiled before you get yourself into it. So be warned now, and don't hate on me later when you're spoiled. But needless to say, let us get started by introducing our guests. First and foremost, the elusive one, Lucius Augustus. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. You don't need to know where I am, people. Just every now and then you'll see in a YouTube live stream, I'll talk and interact with people, but you don't need to know who I am.
You need to know who he is, where he from, what he about. Nah, don't worry about that. Understood, sir. But I appreciate you being here. You know, I've been trying to get this man on here for a while now. You know, his elusive takes are worth hearing. So I appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you. And of course, the brother himself, we call him the OG. He is the lore master on this program. Pixelbit G. What's going on, sir? How you doing this evening?
What's going on, brother? Appreciate being invited to the wonderful show again. We're going to talk some of that Starfield talk tonight. I am quite starborn.
Clearly, yeah. Based on the playtime, I hear you are more starborn than the rest of us. So we're going to get into it. But yeah, we appreciate your take, being here. You've been around the block more times than the rest of us. Pause. So we get into it.
That might be numerically true as well, by the way.
There you go. There you go. And last and certainly not least, the starborn one himself, Mr. Infinite Umbra. Good evening, sir. How goes it?
Oh, it goes great. You know, I have a message from ground control to Major Town. I'm loving it.
I was about to say, you're only allowed one more bar before we get demonetized.
Before you get copyright stricken, yes.
That's right.
I am more than happy to be here with you gentlemen tonight. And yeah, very excited to talk about this game. I actually have never had any major discussion about Starfield outside of basic thoughts. So this is actually a worthy discussion. I wish more people were here so we can all be, encompassing.
Absolutely.
What better company than you three gentlemen, tonight. So,
you know what, though? I have a feeling this may be an ongoing topic that we may get into a few more times, because this is the kind of game that kind of keeps giving you, if you know what I'm saying. Like, initially, when we were going through our first runs, those who had played it to its fruition kept saying, hey, maybe don't, run through it like that, because there's reasons. And now I think we all understand what those reasons are. We're gonna get into it, but I think first and foremost, let me first off put the Starfield gameplay footage on the screen here. Now, again, we are spoiling it, but this is early footage. I'm gonna start from scratch, so you're not gonna see anything spoilery too much from me. But while we play, let me ask the gentleman. We'll start from the top. Myself first. How many hours or days or whatever, in my example, of Starfield I have under my belt? While I let my Xbox Live here populate, I will go to Mr. Lucius Augustus. How about you, sir? How long have you been playing this game now? How many hours in are you?
I am in New Game Plus 3, and I have played for 257 hours.
Damn. New Game Plus 3. So clearly all y'all just putting me to shame. It is what it is. I am the grazer of the group. I've been playing too many games, but I do keep playing Starfield. But no, I appreciate that. So you've seen a few variations, and we'll get into that. But okay, cool. How about you, Mr. Pixelbit G? I know you put in some time. What is your hours played, sir?
Yeah, I'm in. I think I'm in NG plus 3 as well. I have 700 hours. So
damn, y'all have children,
a
lives.
Lot of time. No, I mean I don't sleep, so a
That's
lot of
what it
late
is.
nights.
That's what it
you
is.
Know what I'm saying? So, and I was off for like I took a week off. That I think it came out like close to my birthday, whatever. So I took a week off, and I was rocking out. You know what I'm saying? So I got some decent time in. You know what I'm saying?
Fantastic, brothers. Fantastic. That is a lot of time. Oof.
A lot of time, yeah.
And how about you, Mr. Umbra? How much time do you have invested in Starfield?
You know, before Pixel spoke, I was so confident that I had everybody beat until we were sharing. And I'm like, damn it, he's more Starborn than me. But I have 13 days, 22 hours, and 33 minutes, which works out to 334 hours and 33 minutes.
Man, oh man. So basically what y'all are telling me is this is the show where y'all just come here and clown me as the young buck in the group. It is what it is. Let us just
it is,
lay it flat. We are here to tell me that I am ill-equipped to be the host of this show.
You're basically still just a minor.
Because I barely
you never left the first moon.
I barely, that's right. In equivalent terms, I barely left the first planet. I'm only 8 days and 10 hours and 50 minutes into this game. Yes,
that's not bad. You know what it is, right?
I'm saying that jokingly, right? But just marvel at the fact that you can say I'm only 8 days into something. Where most games, if you played 8 days of a game, you played the hell out of that game, right? So
exactly, it's very unique here where there's so much more to get to even after 8 days, because that's 210, that's 202 hours right there you did.
And oh, by the way, I cut the Ryujin mission short because I was just sick and tired of it at some point. I was at the point where not sick and tired of the game, but I felt like as a podcaster and a grazer in general, I felt like I started resenting Starfield because I was spending too much time on it. Like, unlike most people who have to dedicate their time to one game, when I dedicate too much time to that one game, I start resenting it and wishing and seeing it as it's taking me away from other games. So I had to see them credits roll. You know what I mean?
That's fair, yeah.
I can understand that.
It was a very strange thing. But then, of course, you step away and you keep thinking about the game and you keep going back to the game. But okay, let's start this from the top. And I guess we'll start with you, Lucis. I guess my question is, what is your experience with Bethesda games getting into Starfield, and what was your initial impression of Starfield when you first jumped in? Did you happen to buy in, or did you wait until it was full release?
So, just to go through my Bethesda history, and I don't remember how old I was, but Oblivion came out, and that kind of changed my life because I had never been more terrified of rats in the starting area that I had been in any starting area. I don't know why. Something about the sound design and just the lighting and everything, it just immediately got me into that world. And as soon as I left that dungeon, that like a jail that you're in Oblivion, it blew my mind. So since then, I've been a huge Bethesda fan of how they make their games and just the experience that you can have inside of their games. I played an ungodly amount of time in Skyrim. I've bought it like 3 or 4 times through multiple platforms, and as soon as Fallout came out, and I was in college when Fallout 3 came out, and let's just say that it almost caused me to fail at least one class. So I am one who dedicates a lot of time into my Bethesda games. So when this was coming out, I was very excited. I paid for the deluxe edition so that way I could play early. I did not want one thing stopping me from being able to experience this. And just to get a very short explanation of how I feel about this, this is now my favorite Bethesda game.
Wow, that's some strong words, man. Some strong words. Okay. That and we'll give you the opportunity to really dive into why you think that is. But let's move on to Pixel for initially and get your take. Same question. You know, what is your experience with Bethesda games? How did you end up playing this? Did you play this? Did you end up getting the watch? I have my watch sitting in the back on my shelf.
Of course I did. You know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Speak on it, sir.
So, my Bethesda history goes back to at least more Morrowind 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I remember when that first came out, that it was so expansive, right? Like I never beat it. It was just I remember because that game just was so flexible, attacking guards, right, and having guards like murk you, and I was like, whoa, you know, I wasn't used to that, right? So I played Morrowind for a while. I absolutely fell in love with Oblivion. Played ungodly number of hours in Oblivion, like literally hit every place, and Oblivion was massive. You know, did my time in Skyrim, you know, hundreds of hours in Skyrim, right? Pretty much the same thing in most of the Fallout games. I think in Fallout 4, I had like over 300 hours in Fallout 4. Never beat it because I was just, you know, you get caught in the side missions, you just never beat the game. But like, funnily enough, right? Like historically, I got into Fallout from Wasteland, right? So,
oh wow, okay,
yeah, from I think that's the Interplay days, right? So, if people don't know, right, Fallout was originally like derived as a take on the Wasteland series, right? But it was, you know, a 3-dimensional take on that isometric game. So a lot of the tones and stuff are similar. So I kind of fell in love with Bethesda at that time, but I've been a fan of their work ever since, right? So in terms of Starfield, you know, for me, in terms of like the hierarchy of games, Oblivion to me was always better than Skyrim. It just feels more RPG to me than Skyrim.
Okay.
The dungeon layouts are better. Like it's just the lore in that game is just deeper. I just love it, right? But Skyrim was also an amazing game, right? The dragons and everything, awesome, right? So, like I said, I spent a lot of time in those games. I wasn't like I bought into Starfield the minute they announced it because it's Bethesda, so I already know the kind of game that I was gonna get, right? I didn't expect anything other than a Bethesda game in space for the most part, and I got that. But on top of it, I got like really good story elements and interesting side missions and stuff like that, as well as you know, like the ship design, stuff like that. So, you know, the interesting thing about this is kind of the way in Oblivion, probably more so in Oblivion than Skyrim, how your horse became an extension of your character, right? With the horse armor and all that stuff, the dreaded horse armor. I think you know, this game takes it to the next level, right? Because I kind of fall in love with my ships, you know, and they become a extension of my character, right? So as you build your ships, like, oh, I just got some upgrades. Okay, let me upgrade some weapons on my ship, right? So the ship becomes like a secondary character for you in your missions. And then in this game, I chose to have a bounty all the time, to be wanted in order to force combat all the time, right? So you know, it presents a lot of interesting things because of that. And right now, yeah, this is probably my favorite Bethesda game at this point.
Wow. Yeah. Another one with hyperbolic praise. All right. Amazing for 7 out of 10 game. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, you just had to do it.
100 hours.
Just had to do it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had to do it. You can drop one for now. Just one. All right, sir. Mr. Starborn himself. The Infinite Umbra. What about you, sir?
You know, it's funny because you kind of sometimes when you play games or you do anything in life, you kind of feel like you're that unique thing, right? Like I'm the only one that really felt this way, but it's not the case. And listening to these gentlemen here is clear. Elder Scrolls Oblivion is also my entry into
wow.
And it's crazy because Oblivion is on my Mount Rushmore of games, literally. Like it's there. There's no other game that will replace it. and it's the first RPG of its kind, open world, etc. That that introduced me into that and the experience much. And it's so funny because, like Lucius was pointing out, with the whole dungeon situation where you first escape from, to open up into the wow moment of the world of Cyrodiil. My cousin, rest her soul, Shakira, she was stuck in that dungeon permanently. She never got out of it because she was so terrified of those rats and the goblin in there. She would not go past it.
I'm telling you, those rats are terrifying, bro. As a little kid, I was terrified.
She was too, and I couldn't help but laugh just watching her play it and try to get through it, and she just could not. Her mind wouldn't allow it. So when I heard you speaking on it, it brought a smile to my face. But
funny.
It's a beautiful game, man. And as we all know, like I said, the awe moment, you walk out of that dungeon finally and into the beach. The sunlight hits you. For me at that time, especially, we have games that have outdone it as far as visuals and everything like that. But at that moment, at that time, nothing had to me at least surpassed that awe that I had when I stepped out into the beach and the sunlight hit it. I'm like, what? This is a game. Like, like it left such a crazy impression on me as to what games could be. And there are some games that still outdo that. Red Dead Redemption 2, for me, The Witcher 3, those are masterpieces. I consider Oblivion a masterpiece. And so absolutely, I feel the exact same way that you all do on that. It's so crazy to consider that. But playing through Oblivion, I would love to know how much time I put into that, considering even the 2 expansions from Shivering Isles and what was it, Nights of the Nile, I think it was. Just stuff like that. I would love to know if I could see the time I put into that. But
it's hard to do at this point since that OG hardware, like they weren't keeping track. So that may be that may be difficult.
Exactly. Exactly. No one who's met Shea Gorath forgets him, right?
Right. And it's also one of those games too, outside of just the thought of the awe of the technology at the time. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's also the combat you face, right? My first time playing a first person style, fantasy game like that of its kind. Like what Oblivion is to me what Halo is to me. And that is that it introduced me into I guess a gaming genre that I had no intention to care for it before that. Halo for me was that. I played GoldenEye, I liked it, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't really push me into that genre. I had played nothing else and cared for nothing else like it until Halo CE. And then when I played Halo CE, I my eyes opened up to a whole new world. I'm sorry.
I agree. Halo did the same thing to me. I was a little kid playing Pokemon games, and then I played Halo CE, and I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, that's what it was. And
my
Oblivion is that same thing for me.
Slightly different because I was coming from like the Doom era of gaming. Because I was in my 20s already at that point. But that first Halo, very different from a Doom, a Wolfenstein, like very different mechanics, but still a shooter. Yeah, it was amazing.
Absolutely. And it's the story thing behind it, right? Because not only did it excel in improving on what the design of first person shooters, but it also the storytelling element of what you can do in these types of games. And that's what Oblivion did for me. I think it's evolved since that point, clearly, right? But it introduced that more cinematic storytelling that we hadn't been used to, in my opinion, in gaming.
Really, Patrick Stewart, right? As the
absolutely
king, right? So
it much better than that.
The Trek fans, you hear that guy talking, you're like, oh, sweat.
Oh yeah, this is real, right? So just playing through things like that, and so outside of the gaming aspect of it, like I say, the storytelling aspect of it opened up so much more for me and what gaming could be capable of. And that's why to this day Oblivion is on my Mount Rushmore. Just a masterpiece of a game to me. And so that was my beginning journey for Bethesda games. Now we've all played the Fallouts and stuff like that and other games. None of them have come close to Oblivion for me still. And I hazard to say it, in no disrespect, but Starfield, that includes Starfield, but we'll get more to it that later. But that's my opening salvo, if you will, for that.
So it surprises me that I just put some friends together, and for some reason, they all have the exact same history with Bethesda. That is surprising to me. I didn't even notice beforehand. That is hilarious that you guys all literally like come from Morrowind. Like it's that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
it's like Morrowind and Oblivion. Like those two.
Yes.
And it's crazy because I started with the original Xbox with Halo CE and Jet Set Radio Future. And like those games blew my mind, but somehow I missed Morrowind when it originally came out on the Xbox and didn't get to it until later, until after I played Oblivion, and I was like, yo, did these people make other games? And then I play Morrowind and I'm like, this game is insane. You can merge spells. No game has done that yet, where you can essentially create your own spells inside of the game that can break the game.
Yep. They were very experimental back in those days, because at that point, no one cared enough to pay attention. Now it's like, oh, you don't want to do that. Excellent, man. It's absolutely excellent. All right. So let's get a little bit more deep into Starfield talk properly, right? And we don't want to get too crazy, because I don't want it to be turned into a 4-hour podcast dissecting every aspect of it. But I guess I would say we each spent a lot of time, like we all have a lot of playtime invested, right? And for me, I'd say 85% of that playtime that was invested in the main campaign, right? The first run through, I would say, right? The subsequent run throughs have done more experimentation and all of this stuff, and we'll get into all that and how that looks and how that feels and all that. We'll even get into the meta conversation that's surrounding Starfield since its release. But I guess my first question, and the first place I want to head with it, is, what do you guys feel about that first run through? The good, the bad, the masterpiece aspects of it, the ugly, the painful parts of it, because like, and we're not gonna like sugarcoat it, right? Obviously, the game has come out and it made a lot of hay, both in good and bad, right? And in a vacuum, you can call it what you will, but it's not a vacuum, and there's a lot of conversation that happens anytime that game is mentioned, both negative, a lot of negative, and some positive. So I guess, in earnest, where is your barometer? Where is there more negative than positive for you? Do you not see what they see, or do you see all of this, but for you, the pieces of the puzzle are the make up a greater whole, right? Because some people are just so like, oh, it's boring and it's tedious and it's this and it's that, and they're picking apart the various aspects of all the pieces of the puzzle, but that may not be for you. For me specifically, like, and I guess we can expound on that a little bit later, but for me specifically, if I can give you my preamble as to what I find on this game, I feel like it is a piece of every other game you've ever wanted it to be. You want the space genre, it's there. You want the RPG genre, it's there. You even want the action role play, it's there. You want the shooter genre, it's there. They're all there, right? They're not the best of each, but they're good enough to be a very valid representation of each genre. And since it's all in one piece of the Starfield, that is the Starfield puzzle, it kind of elevates it above all the others for me, right? It's not the best RPG. It doesn't give you the best RPG elements of, let's say, Baldur's Gate 3. It's not the shooter that Call of Duty is. It's not the space exploration game that No Man's Sky is, but it's so good at each of those pieces that together it makes a whole, for me, that's better than all of the others. But that's just how I feel. So we'll start from the bottom this time. Umbra, sir. The good, the bad, the masterpiece for you, if there is any, and the ugly. What do you think?
So I think I think what you said there was really spot on. And the more I played, because I later on gave a review score of, I believe I came to an 8.5. I feel like the 0.5 may have been me trying to be a little extra, like, gracious, but I'm going to say that I gave it the 8.5 largely because I agree with you that it didn't master any of those areas. Clearly, there are better games in those specific genres, right? But for what it does do well. I was actually surprised by how good the shooting mechanics were. I thought they would be worse.
Yes.
So that was actually a boon to the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it was a step down as far as the RPG elements of storytelling that they excelled at with Oblivion, for instance, right? Because the dialogue system here and the characters you speak with wasn't as, in my opinion, revolutionary as Oblivion was to me at the time. And I think gaming at the time. I think gaming has just evolved so much more. And if you compare it to something like a BG3, which I don't want to do, but if you compare it just RPG styling at least to that and how you speak to characters and how it's done, hell, you can even go to Mass Effect, I would say, and you see how it's done there. And this, to me, I would say is kind of a step back for Bethesda and where they should have progressed. So there are elements where I feel the game isn't modernized enough, but it's still a Bethesda game, as they would say, right?
Yeah,
so it stays true to what Bethesda is, but then I don't know if necessarily that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess that's the best way I can put it, because there's some things I feel they should have improved upon at this point, and some things that I think is perfectly fine and reasonable. Exploration, we can go to that, right? Exploration wise, you look at how it is done in there, and it's a slightly different. Now you're going to have to put time in to go and to visit all these star systems and these planets. And I think the way it's made, most people don't want to go through that. And they don't want to really take the time to do that. Somebody like Pixel, for instance, would see most everything. 700 hours is nothing to sneeze at. My time is good. His is way better, clearly. So he understands how Bethesda games work and how you have to, it takes time. And it sounds crazy to say. And I even myself, I felt like a hypocrite, because I remember having a discussion with somebody just a bit off key, where we were talking about Death Stranding, and they said to me, "Well, it takes about 5 hours before you can get into the game and like it." I'm like, "Man, I'm not giving you 5 hours of my time." But hypocritically, I can point to this and say, like, when people are like, "Oh, I played 12 hours and it wasn't doing it for me," I'm like, "Well, you got to give them more time." Then I was like, "Oh, I sound like them."
You got to wait till season 4 before it gets good.
You're right. There's a slight difference between comparing this to Death Stranding, because Death Stranding doesn't give you its combat early enough, right? You're just it doesn't give you the fun part till later on. Whereas this game, the fun can start immediately for you if you choose.
True.
Right? Some people never go to Constellation. You just start the game and start wilding out. If you know how Bethesda games work, like when I played Oblivion, I don't go to town. Are you kidding me? There are missions. No, they're like dope missions on the way to town.
Yeah.
And if you just go to town, you'll never see those missions.
That is true. And that's the beautiful part about Bethesda, that there's a lot of like opportunities and missions and stuff just you'll see in like what they had what they call those guys you would find along the road, the something men. The highwayman. You come across people like that who would threaten.
That was the first game that you got jacked in a game.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That is. You know what? Now that you say that, it wasn't what came out first, that or Grand Theft Auto 3? Because I think Grand Theft Auto might have been the one where I felt like
the one that introduced it. Introduced that aspects of it. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But I do agree with you though, because I do remember that, and they were like, "Hold it, you can't come past here, etc., etc." But it's just funny to think about that. But I think you're right in that the approach for Bethesda games, and I don't think many people are attuned to that now. I think that the thought share of how we approach RPGs now are different than how Bethesda kind of mastered it then, and maybe that's what conflicts, right? Ultimately, and I think that's really what it is, because you're right in that you typically for Bethesda games you can approach it however you want, but the beauty of it is that typically you stray away from the main mission. You just kind of go do your own thing. You never have to complete the game. You can continue doing your own thing, and that's Bethesda's DNA, But if I was to say, as far as what I loved, aspects of what I love, one of the things here on screen right now, we're at a space battle, but therein lies the rub, however, right? So while I love the space battles, the dog fights, if you will, where I loved putting my ships together, where I loved being able to dock on somebody else's ship and hijack them, all those things are great. But what I disliked strongly, and only after I played for so long, that I realized you're basically in this small bubble that you can't go past. Now, unless you really, really stick to it, like Alana Pierce, you get what I'm saying. But you stick in this bubble, and game design wise, it makes you feel constricted, right, and not able to explore, and because of it, or at least to I guess traverse. So, like, if they would have added more elements in space, like asteroids that you can fly through, and I know they have some asteroids, don't get me wrong, I know you go to certain planets that have asteroids, and some that might even follow you before the patch, by the way. But but I think they could have added more elements, you know what I mean? Like, have you guys played Chorus, for instance?
Oh yeah.
So, if you play Chorus, for instance, there is a bigger open map of space. And now I know that's way too ambitious to ask for, because this is an ambitious game already.
So let me hit you with what I suspect you will get hit with in the comment section.
Yeah.
Right.
Or by me.
or by Lucius.
I'm waiting in the wings.
Right? Comparing Chorus to Starfield is like comparing GT7 to Forza. Right. And the reason why I put it that way is
Forza Horizon to Forza Motorsport.
Sure, exactly, and that's also a very good apt comparison. The reason why I compare it that way is because when you go for realism, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, but it's all real, right? Real time. That's how it just is, right? Versus basically most video games, which is a highlight of everything, right? If you were to go to space, you wouldn't be getting dogfights like just quickly. You probably get one dogfight per 50 years because space is full of empty space, right?
Absolutely.
And they went more for the realism NASA route than the bombastic get you as many combat encounters route.
And I think I agree with you there, right? Now I know not that I think I know you're correct. I know exactly that's what they went for, but I think it's possibly to the game's detriment.
To its detriment a little bit.
Just a bit. And I'm not saying it's necessarily bad.
Let me quickly pause for a moment, because we're getting into this conversation, and I would be remiss without welcoming the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Boomstick Excel. Good evening, sir. We appreciate you spending some time with us, man.
You know what? Mrs. Boom was just doing a few things on the PC, so I figured let me pop in here and kind of drop my bars about this. This is not obviously live. Augustus, what's going on, brother? Pixel Bit G, what's going on, brother? And of course, Everborn Saga. We will be.
He's not here.
Out tomorrow. Oh, he's not here.
He's not here. He's not. No. He chose. Well, choose. Life happened to him. He unfortunately was stuck at work. I messaged him. He said he might join us if he has the opportunity to. But you know what? The conversation has left the station, and it is good without him. So that's it is what it is.
Get out.
That's right. So I will give you a quick moment to get your bars off, sir. I know you're on limited time, and we appreciate Mrs. Boone for letting us borrow you. Umbra, please finish your statement.
Okay, I'll quickly wrap it up. Basically, no, I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what they were going for. But I think in things like that, I think you have to in my opinion, at least, I think they should have emphasized the more gaminess of it, less of the realistic approach to it in that degree.
Okay.
Just because, and you're right, we wouldn't come across people like that in 50 years. You're right. But because we actually do have the element in the game where we have dogfights, and it's a big element of the game is dogfighting. I think they should have gamified that a bit more. I mean, there's a bunch of things that I could point to that they could have done that for, but in that specific regard, I think that's one of the things they should have possibly put that aside for. But I'll say this one last thing. You mentioned the part about the game, some people have called it boring, etc. Again, I think that is the point, that's what they were going for, because the realistic aspect of it is that space possibly would be boring because you're going to be traveling around without seeing or interacting with anything or seeing anything for large periods of time. But that's where I say I think the gamifying of things would have possibly served it better than to try to approach it as realistic or realism in that case.
I kind of want to counter.
It's called NASA Punk for a reason. NASA.
I kind of.
Oh boy! Go ahead, Pixel. Counter. Go ahead. I know you're going to counter. Go ahead.
Gamifying.
I'm going to be messy.
They can get close to the planet. That's the gamification of it.
Well, say it again, Pixel. I didn't hear you, brother. I'm sorry.
You're kind of gamifying it by making the battles happen close to planets, right? They don't happen in the middle of space. They happen near something interesting, right? Some kind of planet or a moon or a star base, right? Activity happens near a congregation point. That's kind of gamification. Right?
I actually thought Pixel. I thought you were going to go for, hey, if you want more gamification, why don't you turn on they're coming after me every 5 minutes like you did?
Oh, yeah, no, but that increases the chance of combat. But
yes,
you also have to kind of look at it. At least the way I played it is in context of the world, right? This is a civilization that uses light bending in order to get to where they're going. So why would they travel anywhere slower than that, right?
That's right.
You don't have to, right? So you kind of navigate to your most interesting point and you work from there. So traffic would happen near planets. That's why battles happen.
True.
Right?
They're going for that realism. Interesting.
Yeah. See, I'm fine with that though, right? See, but that doesn't really counter what I was saying. See, like that to me, sure, that's a bit of gamifying by allowing you to fight people more in the areas you would travel to. But then you don't have that exploration bit in space where you just fly around in general. You basically flying from one interesting point to one other interesting point of a planet.
You're saying make them fly faster so they can get. So
not even that. I mean, I'm just saying, like there is no actual exploration wise. Is there?
Well, okay. So if I understand it correctly, if I understand Umbra correctly, and I'll let you rebut Lucius Gustus. I know you have a point to make. If I understand what Umbra is trying to say correctly, it feels like one combat arena to another combat arena rather than exploration.
That's
and
exactly
depending on how you play it, it's like Hi-Fi Rush. One room, block, fight. Another room, block, fight. Right? It feels that way, and people who hold that against it,
a point-to-point game. That's the
thing.
That's the thing about it, and I get why. Like we get it, right? And trust me, I get it. So that's a game. That's how they do. But I think that's one of the things they probably should have eschewed and did something different with, just in this specific case.
Make it feel more organic.
Exactly.
The encounters.
It makes you feel more linear because of that. It makes the game feel less open. It makes it feel more constricted just because of that aspect. You know what I mean?
Lucius, please get your bars off, and then I'll head to Boom.
Yeah. Okay, I'll quickly say, I think that I agree with Pixel Bit. I think I agree with Umbra to some degree when he says, "Hey, the realism kind of negatively impacts it," and I can see that. But for me, that was the highlight. For me, everything being so realistically simulated made sense inside of my mind. Oh, why am I having such a huge difficulty trying to travel to the planet? It's because the planet is literally going faster than my ship can go, based off of a lot of different things. It has a gravitational pull around the sun that is making it go faster at a faster rate than I can go to it. Okay, so how are you going to be able to do that? You literally have to jump to the planet to where the gravitational force will hold you in place inside of that central location. I love that we brought up Alana Pierce, because one thing that she proved is that everything
you can get to its destination.
Yes, everything's being realistically simulated inside of the world, which includes your speed. Outside of getting from one local area to the next, it is not reasonable to simultaneously simulate multiple solar systems like that to make them as big as they are, and to be like, oh, I want to be able to travel to each planet within like 5 minutes. That's not a real thing. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends. That's part of what I say to gamification, though, Lucius. See, because in the gamification of it, you could travel through space in a given system and do that, and have them use the gravitational pulls that they use to shift quicker to those other areas. Again, I go to chorus,
the No Man's Sky style, right?
Or No Man's Sky. That's a good point. And that's another one too. I can't think of.
But I think, when I think of those games are significantly more arcadey when it comes to the space implementation than what we have in Starfield, which is why I said it's like comparing Forza Horizon 5 to Forza Motorsport, because this thing tries to do a lot of things in a realistic manner, and they had to pull things back. If you like I obsessed with Starfield. I watched almost every single, if not every single interview. And one of the things that they mentioned in one of their interviews is that they had to pull back a lot of the things that they had in the game because it was removing from the fun, like the survival in the game. Some people are mad, like, oh, why is there not a survival mode? Trust me,
It's
when trust me when I say the things that they removed from there, you would have not wanted, because it was like the radiation and the cold damage and all that other stuff. It was so intricate that it could like kill you very easily while you were having a firefight outside.
That's far more No Man's Sky than I wanted, because No Man's Sky gets annoying with that sometimes. Yes,
exactly.
yes,
And that's where Starfield was probably a year and a half ago, and they're like, no, we need to pull this back. Like we need to
make it more fun.
Or systems are still there, right? Like all those negative status effects that occur to you, like literally the minute you hit the planet. So it's there. Go ahead,
Mr. Boomstick, sir. Again, I know you're on borrowed time. I appreciate you being here, sir. Hit me with your top of the dome initial impression. We're going to do spoilers here, but I'm giving people a chance to kind of hit us with their initial impressions. How long you've been playing for? We've all presented our hours. I am the baby of the group with only 8 days. These people are rounding weeks. This is ridiculous.
I'm the baby because I only have 5 days and 13 hours.
Oh, well, there you go. I feel at least a little bit better about myself at this point.
See, the thing is this. The thing with Starfield is I'm fascinated by this game on a multitude of levels, because no matter who you speak to, and I think that this is the shining aspect of the game. No matter who you speak to, everyone has a different story, right? And someone like my brother, right? My brother Neo Mental he's got to have a 20 days, something like that. He has a ridiculous amount of time in it.
That man goes hard for his games, man. He's the only one on my timeline that is always double digits on whatever game I'm playing. It doesn't matter what I'm playing. He's played twice as much.
Freak master. He is a Starfield freak master. And you take for instance the way he plays the game. He's probably maxed out his character. He was getting one point after another through this building thing that he did. He would set up like right on the line of where iron and something else is, and he would just keep building and building and building, and he would just keep upgrading and upgrading. And
so he's a min maxer, is what you're saying?
Oh yes, 100%. He builds ships. He has like the ship building. I didn't even touch it. Outside of maybe changing some colors on my ship, I was like, yeah, it's just not my bag. I tried doing the building thing. I spent like 4 hours on it, and I'm like, I can't get these 4 hours back, and I goodbye. and I left it where pirates probably have taken it over and whatever. See,
so for you, the building is the bad stuff. You don't like the building as much.
Yeah, I'm not a builder. I'm more of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of a guy. Even though I like being politically correct, like I am a good guy. I'm a goody two shoes. I help everybody. I didn't kill grandma. You didn't kill grandma. That was a good question. I was going to ask. You didn't kill grandma. Real quick, did anybody in this panel kill grandma? And you know what I'm talking about.
I did not.
I'll start with you. Don't hold on, Lucius. Do you know what I'm talking about by grandma?
Yeah, and I did not kill grandma. I would not do that.
Goodness.
Right. Pixel, do you know what I mean by grandma?
Of course I do, and I did not kill her. No,
and you did not kill grandma. Okay, Umbra, how about you, sir?
I know what you mean. I never came across her in my 334 hours.
That is.
Oh, this is what I wanted to know.
See,
I do love about it.
That's what's fascinating about it. See, because he is an off-the-cuff encounter. You can completely bypass her, pay no attention, or you can actually go there and have a conversation, and she tells you this elaborate story about her husband and her grandkids and why she's out doing what she's doing. And she offers you things. Like I thought at first, I was like, this lady's gonna poison me. This what I'm gonna wake up like.
I thought it was a trap for a second.
Really, that's what I thought at first. But I'll say this. One of the things that immediately jumps off the page is when you start the game. This game is gorgeous. This game has a look. I get it. It's a quote unquote Bethesda joint. I understand that it has its quirks that makes it a Bethesda game. But this, by far, at least in my humble opinion, is probably one of the best looking games they have ever made. In the year that they spent fine tuning the graphics was well worth the wait. I heard what Umber had to say, and he's on point. Like I am going to say that one of the things that is severely lacking, especially if you want, like, these planets are huge, and there's a lot to see. And I got to be honest with you, it didn't really bother me, but it started to get a little long in the tooth when you get to your third or fourth or fifth day. The jumping, consistent jumping to get things. Now, I know that they said there's going to be an update coming soon. They didn't specifically say when, where some land vehicles may be introduced. I think that's going to change the whole dynamic of the game.
Yeah,
because there were a lot of the times, like the first planet, I'm sure everyone did this. The first planet you went to, I did everything in my power to find every plant, every creature till I 100%ed the planet. And when I did it, I was actually disappointed that I didn't get like that achievement. I thought for sure there was going to be complete, a one planet. There's your 10-point achievement, whatever, just so you can say, I completed a planet. But
that actually would have been a great achievement for that. And like you said, I literally did. I think we spoke about this on the show one time with you. And much like you, I played through. I would say the first planet was the one I spent the most time on because I went through every nook and cranny and picked up everything I could, just about.
Yeah. I mean, listen. To me, it seems pretty cut and paste for that to be an achievement to have 100% on a planet, and maybe there's one for 100% on 30 planets. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna.
So can I give a hot take?
Sure.
So I know Pixel, you're on here. You play a lot of No Man's Sky. You have played a lot of No Man's Sky in the past, as have I. To me, the scouting aspect of Starfield, the scan for stuff on the planets aspects, were the most No Man's Sky to me, and I avoided them like the plague. I felt like it was too much of a derivative of No Man's Sky. I barely scanned anything because that's all you do in No Man's Sky, basically.
Yeah, that stuff is only useful like for your Neo Mental. He has to use it because in order to get the best base building, you have to do a lot of scanning, right? For research and stuff. So you play the game kind of the way you want to play it. Like in terms of like the running and the jumping, there is ways to just move very fast in the world where you don't have to jump, right? So my character doesn't jump. He uses a drug and he's maxed out. So with extra oxygen, he can basically run at like superhuman speeds to get to most places. So there are mechanics in the game that promote your play style, right? So if you want to explore, you have to put a lot of points into the things that are related to exploration basically.
And you know what? With that brings up a super interesting point that I want to veer the conversation into a little bit. First impressions, right? Because when we first started playing this game, a lot of people had a lot of bad first impressions. We heard a lot of those takes out there. But the RPG aspects in here are so strong, in fact, that you start with debilitated levels of everything when you start the game. Your gun is crap. Your jetpack can barely go.
Yeah, like a good RPG.
Yes, they put their worst foot forward, like every good RPG does. But it seemed that and the encumbrance and all of that, it seemed that served a negative purpose, at least to those who aren't used to these kinds of games.
Those people were used to that, so I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, is it like the whole joke about RPGs is like the first 10 like the first hour you're picking flowers and the last hour you're killing God. Like that's the whole joke. So
Right.
So I don't understand how they didn't know that you were going to be weak from the beginning.
But okay.
But yes, it's as you heard, it did cause a lot of hate in the communities, and I will, there's a lot of disingenuousness part of the conversation, of course, but let's keep it to those who genuinely were thrown for a loop by some of the aspects of this game, right?
Sure.
Those are the same genuine people who were thrown for a loop by some of the aspects of, let's say, Baldur's Gate 3 that they weren't aware of until they bought into it, right? So keeping it to that area, Boom, let me start with you. What was your first impression of it with the encumbrance and all of that? Are you like an RPG veteran? Forgive the voice. Are you an RPG veteran enough to the point where you knew what to expect and it was no big deal, or did it kind of take some getting used to?
No, it's a Bethesda game. Like, if you are a fan of their work, you know you can't carry 1,700 axes. It's a thing. You have to, like I said, I mean, the one thing about this game, you can pick up anything, like almost anything. And sometimes when you're going to pick up something, you pick up, like, for instance, there's a lot of like base building stuff you pick up that weighs a lot, and the minute you see it, you have to drop it, right? Like, there are limitations to what you can carry. It did not bother me at all, because this is kinda what you kind of expect, right? Like, it's a Bethesda game. Over incumbent happened in Skyrim, it happened in Fallout, it happened in Fallout New Vegas, even though that's Obsidian that made that one.
Obsidian, yep.
Yeah, it's just
it's
part.
a standard part,
a standard procedure.
So
yes.
I mean, I see, that's the thing that's a little bit frustrating, though, right? Like, when you hear people that listen, if you had a negative experience with Starfield, you're not going to get me to give you a hassle over it, because I'm not here to tell you about your experience. If you didn't like it, if you couldn't get into it, if you could not, get around the corner of the conversation, because listen, let's call a spade here, gentlemen. This game is vast, and it's big, and it's bodacious. Yeah. And you know what? To be honest with you, at times it's a little much, right? Like, you as a gamer could be slightly overwhelmed, especially when you start to pile up the missions that you haven't completed, and you go into what you have active, and you're like, Jesus, I got like 13 active things. Oh, I got to start cleaning this up, because to me it bothers me. Like I said, ultimately, absolutely, this is my game of the year. I am thrilled that I have, and I thought I had a lot of time, like 5 days and 13 hours and 29 minutes. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of time. That's nothing in this game. There are people like everyone on this panel. You have 8 days, and you're like, oh man, I feel like a baby.
Yeah, 8 days. I'm a baby. What is it? 13 days or something is the max on this panel right now? Is it 13 days? I forget. No. Who has the most days?
15. 29.
29.
29.
I'm sorry, sir. I misspoke.
And actually, funny thing is, I just realized that I got a hacked version of my account of my character on Xbox by mistake. So I have there are 3 achievements I've been hunting for, and I'm like, and I just realized that the account I'm using is not getting achievements. So I got to go back.
Oh no!
Oh wow!
All good. All good.
There's a mod.
I thought I was
that you can install.
Oh yeah,
that allows you to be able to still get the achievements when you have other mods installed. So you should be good.
Okay,
interesting.
Yeah, I thought my Steam version, but I did the
one thing I will say. I don't know if anyone mentioned it before I got here. That almost seems like it's there just for the sake of being there. Is the melee?
Okay.
Yeah,
the melee's not good.
I never found it to be satisfying enough to like sneak up on someone and whack them with an axe or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like
they made a little hay about it during the presentation, but it didn't seem to play out well in
no, it really didn't. I mean, like I said, I've told this story before. I think the encounters, especially when it comes to your crew, are again, to me, this whole game is just fascinating, because you hear so many stories that are unlike your own, and you're like for instance, there's a specific a derelict spaceship that Pong Sol came across, And when he gets on board, the lights are out. It's floating. There's no gravity. He finds a letter saying, "Hey, it got out of its prison or whatever, or out of its test tube," and it's like Alien on that ship. And I went looking for that ship, and he's like, "Oh, well, I was on this planet over here," and I went looking. I could not find it.
I have found that ship. Yes, there is an Alien movie.
Yes,
literally, it's a whole movie inside this game.
Inside this, that ship. Yep. And I
found that ship too.
Oh, see, and that's the crazy thing. I didn't find it, and I went actually looking for it. I did find a casino that had they killed everybody in the casino. And
I found the casino.
That was pretty dope because it was all pirates in there, and there was even a boss, like a boss pirate in there. That was a real pain in the ass to kill. Look, I know that this isn't a perfect game, but considering, and I've said this to my brother, I said, what is amazing are there are so many systems stacked on top of each other. This game has no right to even work, and somehow it does. Like I said, I like the fact that the choice is really consequential. I think there's the consequence of, like, for instance, I don't know what you guys did at the end. This is obviously
hold on. We'll get to the end. I want to get to the end. I want to talk about the end, specifically the end of itself.
Yeah, we're just at first thoughts.
Okay.
Yes. But listen, let me give you a chance to give me some middle tier thoughts here. Get us some spoilers going. I'll start with you, Boom. Give me your favorite story that happened to you. Something that has not happened to others. I think I know the one you'll mention.
I'm going to mention it. You probably know about it. Umber might even know about this. But this to me is when it happened. I literally could not. Tears were coming down my eyes. That's how hard I was laughing, because you don't expect that. See, okay, so one of the things that is fantastic, especially if you like stealing ships, and I do, but I only steal them from the bad guys because, screw them, right? They're bad guys. They don't need ships. Yeah. They're gonna rob somebody anyway, so let me just rob them first. That's my thought and theory.
Okay.
So there was a ship that was downed, and normally there's a patrol outside. There was no one there. I get onto the ship, and it's quiet. Right? I start moving slowly because I'm sneaking to the cockpit. And there's, how there's a red light in the cockpit that they looked like they were part of the Crimson Fleet. So I took the shotty right to the dome, and it turns out that they happen to be one of the good guys.
Oh no!
Yes. So at that particular moment, Sarah, who I had just married, yells, "Oh my God, what did you just do? I can't be with you." And she breaks out. She leaves the ship. And I'm like, holy shit, I have to reload this because I don't want to lose Sarah, and I just killed an innocent person. I can't live with myself.
I remember that story.
So she logistically like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. What were you thinking? I can't be with you." And she just leaves. I'm like, okay, I'm going to reload my save. That's what I wind up doing. But it's funny, man.
All right. Pixel, how about you, sir? I want to know the craziest thing that happened to you. Something that you think maybe others would not have experienced while just kind of traversing through this world.
I've had like a prospect to show up out of nowhere and claim that I'm somehow interfering with their claim. So it just like randomly happens on certain planets. So like as you're traveling around, you're just like, you come out of a cave and they're like, hey, what are you doing here? You're trying to take over my stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So you kind of give it like a little moral dilemma there where you can decide if you're going to take them out or just try to talk your way out of the conversation. So I think that's interesting. I've had one scenario where a space salesman tried to scam me. So,
wow.
Like he's like randomly talking about some item or whatever. Oh, and if you get in now at this level, so I'm like, yo, get out of here before I blow your ship up. You know what I'm saying? So they have like these little silly little random events like that I think are just very interesting. So like those are kind of memorable for me.
All right. How about you, Lucius Gussus? What is something that's unusual that has come across your path that might be different than others?
Well, before I do that, let me just give my first take because I didn't get to.
Yes, please do. Please do.
That.
Yes, please do. Forgive me.
So,
Yes, go ahead.
So when I started playing this game, I wanted to role play as Spike Spiegel, essentially, a black Spike Spiegel. Which, if you guys know who that is a character, a main character from the anime Cowboy Bebop.
Lucius,
yes, stylistic, fantastic. Anime, love it.
Some jazz music as you played through this.
Oh man, the entire time I was playing both old jazz and new jazz the entire time. Fact, but
nice.
So I wanted to play that character, so I knew from the beginning. I was like, I need to focus on pistols, and I need to focus on my spaceship. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the weapon diversity in this game. Despite the fact that I limited myself to only pistols, there are 38 pistols in the game, which allowed me to be able to have a lot of different varieties. Like, let's say I'm really close to this person and I need like a high rate of fire. I have this pistol for that. Let's say I'm a little far away and I need something with a scope. I got a pistol for that. So I had like literally 12 pistols on me all over the place. And I was just running around and I just had so much fun. And that was my first experience, just trying to role play as this person, getting the points that I needed to become this person that I wanted to be inside of this world. And the fact that Starfield allowed me to be able to do that, fantastic. And to say about the unique thing that I interacted with, a few of you may have interacted with this person. It's a very specific person. You don't know if they're important, but it's a really cool looking person that you can interact with almost immediately.
I forgot about that. Yes, I had that encounter early on.
I interacted with this
about it.
Yeah, I interacted with this person, and I'm like, I have a full conversation with them, and I'm just like, this is a really interesting person. And I'm like, all right, I leave New Atlantis. I go to Aquila City, and he's also there. He's just chilling, and I'm like, yo, bro, what's good? Have a whole conversation with him. Boom. Certain things happen later on in the game, and that person becomes very important. So the fact that you could interact with that person so early on, I felt was so interesting. And there was someone else that I interacted with. I'm in my spaceship just messing around, and this is the first I'm playing around, messing around my spaceship, and I'm chilling near a planet, just listening to the Starfield music, vibing. And a spaceship comes out of nowhere, and she's just like, hey, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no. And she's like, okay. Well, you'll know who I am at some point, and I'm very important. So come back and meet something. And I'm like, what?
And I didn't have I see. This is what I'm talking about. Maybe because I didn't play enough. Maybe because I'm the one dragging his heel, so to speak. I didn't encounter any of this, dude.
This lady, she's a very important person, and just like that other person that I spoke about is an important person. But what she decided to do is just to sell high-level weapons to very specific people. And once you become one of those very specific people, you can go to her and get the things that you need to prepare yourself. And the fact that I interacted with her during the first playthrough and had no idea who she was, and then learned later on, I was like, yo, this game is goated.
Yep, absolutely. You know what? I won't even go far into my what happened in mine. I'll let you go, Umbra, because that what you're describing, Lucius, that's exactly what happened to me. Like, there have been many instances, a few times, where like you'll get the story doled out to you, seeing side A and side B, but if you happen to have met people before the story actually unfolded, you get so much more backstory than you would have normally gotten. You know, if you happen to have met the people on the ground, I'll just put it that way. You meet the people on the ground, your first experience will be them telling you things a certain way. If you beat the other people, your first experience will be them telling you the story the complete opposite way. And depending on who you happen to have happened across first, it completely changes everything. You're happening at a bar somewhere. You just having to strike up a conversation with somebody that becomes super, super instrumental later down the line. And you just look at him, he goes, hey, well, maybe if you go around the horn like me, you'll get a cool suit like me too.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh boy.
I have this physiological conversation about like, how would you handle the situation kind of thing. And I'm like, who is this dude? You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of awesome.
There's just so much of that, it knows what it's doing, and it continues to know what it's doing even after the credits roll. We'll get into that. Umbra, what about you, sir?
So it's interesting.
What weirdness is out there for you? What have you experienced?
I got one specific. I was actually going to name that situation that Lucius just spoke on because I encountered him much the same way. First on the main planet, not main planet, but I guess you can kind of consider it the main planet. What is the name of that planet with the where we meet everybody? It's the installation.
Jemison and New Atlantis.
Yeah, New Atlantis. Thank you. So I met him. It was so funny. I don't think they meant for him to do this, but he jumped off something and landed amongst the crowd like Spider-Man. I'm like, what was this? All clad in black. I'm like, what is this armor right here? I'm like, I want to kill you and take this. Right? That's my first thought. Like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to take this. I'm super powerful at this point. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to murder you, and I'm going to actually I have to figure out where to take you at, so the guards won't see me, and they'll be like, criminal scum, oblivion. But so I interact, come across him, and he's like, usually people don't come, don't talk with me, I'm like, whoa, I'm like, oh, this is actually somebody, right? Now I didn't know who, but much like you, Lucius, I'm talking to him, and he's saying all this interesting stuff. I'm like, no, this dude is important. Something is important about this guy. And later on, again, in the I think Jameson, like you said, in the Freestar Collective planet, I come across him there as well. Same way, literally the same way. He was just there chilling on the wall, like laid back. So I thought that was really cool. But I won't go into that because you covered that. One of my coolest encounters that I kept playing once I kept playing was I came across a party cruise ship. Have you all ever come across that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
The saddest party. Like, I was just like, what is wrong? Anyway, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, you join this you come across this ship. This basically essentially a party cruise starship, and you can dock with them, and you can go in there, and everybody is getting drunk and drinking and stuff like that. There's no specific quest or anything like that, but you can dock and join in, interact with the captain and everything like that, and even turn off the gravity and all of that, being like goofy and whatever and playful in there. It's pretty dope. Just things like that is what I like. Like, I got a lot of different smaller encounters like that, but the one that for sure caught me was what Lucius pointed out, because just to have that and then later see it play out, I was like, that's really dope how that went to me.
Yep.
My brother murdered the entire crew on that. Murdered everybody on that ship.
On the party ship?
On the party, on the second playthrough, you murdered the hell out of everybody.
He's a bug.
Laughing.
So
he pulled me up laughing. I'm like, dude, you're psychotic. He goes,
he was the death of the party, you could say. Huh?
He was. And then to make matters worse, after he killed everybody, he blew up the ship.
Oh wow! Your brother Jack
scorched earth, bro.
Leave no evidence, man.
No evidence for my brother. Yeah, I was on his second playthrough, because on the first playthrough he was like, like a good guy, trying to help everybody. Next time he just said, I'm killing everybody. And that's what he did.
So
if there's anything I'll say about the role playing in this game, they need to make it slightly easier to be a bad guy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A lot of the moral decisions that you make, it seems, and don't get me wrong,
it's not ambiguous.
It kind of makes sense that a bunch of nerds who joined Constellation aren't going to want to murder a bunch of people constantly. And it makes sense that none of them are like, kind of like a psychopath that's running around killing people. So when you're doing that, they're not the biggest fans of it. It makes sense why they're not the biggest fans of it. But if I could just get one more companion who's just a demon, then at least one of my playthroughs I can play a bad guy and just be really bad and just have one person.
I know somebody who complained about that actually. It's funny you say that.
I agree.
Yeah, somebody else complained. A buddy of mine.
Andreja will go there with you if you really take it.
No, she won't.
She'll go there with you.
It's different because Andreja, if you put yourself in the situation where other people attack you, Andreja will defend herself. But if you just like pull up to like a civilian ship and kill people, she is not okay.
Oh yeah, she's not down. She's not down. That's for sure.
My buddy, he wanted to play as a villain, and that was one of his complaints. His major complaint is that he couldn't just freely be bad without it causing consequences to the people around him.
Yeah. So you gotta roll. You can't even roll with them because I had them on my ship jacking people, and the crew got so pissed off, like you couldn't even have a conversation with them. Like it's like just mad.
Don't you talk to me?
Just drop me off at the next place. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Just drop me off. I'm done with you.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I mean, imagine how you would feel if you asked somebody for a ride and they start doing a bunch of drive-bys
and they start murking fools left and right.
Bro, you need to drop me off.
It's that that's Dave Chappelle skit
right
with
that's all that is.
That's like that Dave Chappelle skit with that guy. The Dave Chappelle skit where with Brady, with that dude Brady. Yeah. When he go for a ride and this guy's doing like drug pickups and
yeah.
Does a Starbucks have to choke? Let me stop.
Exactly.
No, we're not going there. I remember that. Anyway, so let's get a bit more intermediate. So I want to hear the first time you discover that this is more than an actual like standard fare space simulator, and you start putting two and two together. Hey, there might be more to this. The MacGuffins are more than just MacGuffins. They might actually cause some things to happen. And then your LB and RB button change for the first time, right? I want to hear about that. And oh, by the way, further down that line, does the LB/RB button change your play style, or do you always just continue to be who you are and those are just kind of nice to haves? I found myself at some point deeper into the game becoming really like that, becoming very much part of my flow. So I want to hear that from you guys. So let me start with you, Lucius. How did that happen for you? Like, were you expecting that? Is that you're as has been pointed out by various members on this panel, very deep history in Bethesda games. Do they have a history of throwing? I guess they do, of throwing a curveball, and as far as sci-fi curveballs in realistic settings, or did this surprise the heck out of you?
Yeah, this is the first time that we've had something. Well, I guess in Skyrim you had the shouts, and in Fallout you could say that VATS was a unique thing to your character.
Sure.
And we do get something here. The biggest thing for me is that I played so much of the game, like the side quests and such, before continuing with my main mission. I don't know what level I was, but like I was a significant amount through the game. Like I've done multiple to give you an example, I did the UC Vanguard quest completely through without my LB and RB, which means multiple terramorphs trying to murder me. Like, and I did that with just a pistol and a dream. So, like,
you earned that,
and clearly some skills, like, damn.
Like, and one of the terrifying things is
you see me playing terribly. By the way, this is my first playthrough that I recorded, so there'll be no slander over my terrible footage. It was the first time I was playing. I'm sorry. Continue.
One of the things about the game is that if you read some of the quest things, like when you're going through and like hacking through computers and stuff, it'll give you information about the planet that you're on, some of the things that have happened. And the first planet that you're on, Crete, has a terramorph on it. And if you like read the certain things about it properly and go around the location, you will run into one and it will murder you. So that's the kick. Like,
right from day one. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I experienced it. So I just ran into something is incredibly powerful. Essentially, when I'm like level 3, I can't fight it. I have to like go back. I get stronger. I do the UC Vanguard quest. I fight my first Terramorph. It feels so good to take it out, like, and I kill it. And it wasn't until, I'm maybe level in my 30s. Like, let me continue to do the main quest. I get my abilities and it's over. Like the diversity of gameplay increases even more because the things that you can do are insane. I can go into like a John Wick Max Payne mode where I'm moving so fast nobody can react to me, and activate the slow time thing, walk into a room, shoot 12 guys in the head, deactivate the time thing, and everybody falls to the floor.
Yep.
That's something.
Gotta love that.
Indeed. Yes. How about you, Boom? When did your LBRB change?
I want to say maybe about 20 something hours in. It took a while because I remember you had asked me about that. And I said they don't do anything as far as I know. And he's like, oh,
yes.
So I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to be honest with you. I barely used it. The only time I did use it is when I'm over encumbered, where I would make my own oxygen, and you could run just until it expires, and you're like, okay, I can't move anymore. I can't run because of this. But it didn't change my play style. I know that there's a lot of really, really good powers. And you know what? When I got close to the end, I was like, man, do I continue looking for these things, or do I just want to finish this game? And ultimately, and again, it wasn't to finish it just to finish it, but I already had almost 6 days in, and I stopped playing Hogwarts. I stopped playing Jedi Survivor. I pretty much stopped everything, and I want to get back to some other things. So I was like, you know what? What I'll do is I'll take it more serious in my second run, because I definitely want to run through it again. The only difference is this time I'm waiting for an update for these land vehicles.
Understood. So you finished the your first playthrough, but you haven't started your second playthrough yet.
I did start it. I just haven't got. I just got back to finding the constellation for the first time.
How far into your second playthrough have you been? Have you noticed anything unusual?
No, because I haven't gotten into the constellation. I landed there, and I was about to go in, and that's when I started seeing some of the crazy stories, and I'm like, I wonder which one I'm gonna get.
Okay. So you at least know that there are variations and changes. You just haven't experienced it yourself.
There's been people that have beaten this game 8-9 times.
Yep.
And which is, my God, really.
Which you missed the convo before we started, but like there's a critical path out there, and some have been able to find a way of beating, like using the critical path, beating it for under an hour.
Holy moly. Wow.
Running through the whole thing multiple times, under an hour. And there is a way of doing it. Critical path, right? You start off the game, once you've beaten it, you have all the maps uncovered already. All the various things you need to find are basically on your map day one. It's just about finding the tools to get there. And then come speed runs, and a lot of these people have been able to find the critical path and find a way of getting all the tools they need. And under an hour, you're at the Unity, and we'll get there. We'll get to that part. But, real quick, a quick pro tip for those who saw me doing what I'm doing on this screen here. The photo mode is unusually good. We have all talked about how this game is play it how you want to play it, right? If you're one of the weird fools like me who sometimes finds themselves wanting to play this like a shooter, you can literally use the photo mode as your like recon drone, where as soon as I know there's a bunch of dudes there, right? What do? I step in the back. I step back. I let my drone do all there's 2 here, there's 4 there, there's 5 there. And then once I have them pegged and I know where they will move, I go in knowing that I have action to take to the left, to the right, and no one surprises me. Because the photo mode, oddly enough, usually photo modes have a short radius around your protagonist, so you can only see so much. This thing can almost go halfway through the entire ship, and you're paused just standing there. So like you can use it to do some extensive recon without anyone without like it encumbering your ability to play the game. So
I thought
that was one of the cool things.
Really cool when I was in space and I wanted to take photos of the ship and everything of my beautiful work that I put in on my ship, and you could actually zoom all the way in and see yourself in the cockpit and whatever. I thought that was really dope, and see the details inside.
Yeah, it's well done.
It's one thing I'll give. Sorry, Pixel. I was going to say it's one thing I really enjoyed about this game is that the quality and visuals are far more than what I thought the game was going to be, and I'm so glad it was.
Yep. Now, question before we continue on, and we'll get into like deep spoiler talk after this. Question: where did you play? I'll start with you, Boom. What's your main method of playing?
In regards to what, like
console, cloud,
console?
Phone.
I didn't play anywhere but console. Yeah.
Okay, so you've played this mainly 30 FPS.
Yes.
Okay. How about you, Umbra?
It's interesting. I would dare say I did both, half and half, from the console, from Xbox Series X and the ROG Ally. Thank God for the ROG Ally, man. I've been away from home and put in a ton of time through that. Awesome.
And Pixel, I know you're probably more PC than anything, but did you play on console?
Yeah, I mean, I have a probably like 25% on Series X,
on console,
played on PC. Yeah. But also I'm putting on my ROG a little bit too with the AR glasses. So
see, the man knows how it's played. He knows how it's done.
That's the only.
There you go. I was just doing that a minute ago.
Tech
Lucius, how about you, sir?
I want some AR glasses too.
Yeah.
How about you, Lucius?
I spent all 257 of my hours on
Jesus Christ
on my Xbox. So the moment that Microsoft allows me to be able to install the Xbox app on my Steam Deck, then I can start playing on the PC again. Or I can start playing on my desktop, but I'm not going to start doing that.
So you're waiting for it to come to either Steam Deck, then you'll play it there, 60 frames or something. But until then, you're just going to stick to the console.
Yeah, I think that overall the console does a very good job at kind of translating the whole experience. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I can tell, shadow quality and certain things like that aren't as good as like if I were playing it on Ultra, but I don't know, man. I've always played Bethesda games on console, and I've had no problem playing them, mostly vanilla, my entire life. So playing at 30 FPS, sometimes it bothers me, but most of the time, I feel totally fine.
How about you, Umbra? Real quick, since you happen to play, well, you and Pixel mainly played in both avenues. Did you guys notice any detrimental aspects of, because you play one and then you move to the other, you really get that sense. If you play solely on one versus the other, it doesn't matter, right? And to their credit, 30 FPS on Series X anyway. I haven't really played it on the S much, but on the X was butter when I did experience it, right? So you could really that could be your home platform and you really have no issues. But did you guys experience any issues? I'll start with you, Umbra. Any issues you experienced that when you go in between one versus the other that you notice a jarring, or was it seamless to you?
Well, only for me, the only case would be because I'm playing with the ROG Ally, so the settings aren't quite as high end as the Series X.
Yeah.
So I think the max settings somebody managed to get it to, which I didn't, was 1080p, and I think maybe 60. I think somebody did get it to 60. But mine was 720 at 30. Or no, 720 at 40, as a matter of fact.
Okay, which is not bad. 720 at 40. 40 is good. Yeah,
exactly. Just the visuals were clearly off compared to the Series X, but the frames were solid. That's about it. But as far as playing on the Series X, I'm with you. I think that, and one of my concerns was that it was 30, and like, they're not going to have a 60 for performance mode. But I got to say, they did a solid job with this, man. I had no issues at all with it being at 30. I have to say. It played pretty much flawlessly for me.
Yep. And I'll be honest, like as flawless as it plays so flawlessly that I'm kind of convinced that it could do 60. It probably just can't sustain it, or they don't want to leave the Series S out of the equation for now, because it's so buttery smooth on the Series X that it makes me go, come on now, y'all could have put 60 frames on here. You definitely could have, it's just like ridiculous. You can just tell there's just so much overhead that's just not being tapped into. So I'm expecting and hoping that sooner rather than later we see a 60 frames mode.
Yeah,
but okay.
It really feels a little bit above, but
yeah. It's not one of those where, it's handling it, but every once in a while there's a dip. No, the Series X is not waking out of sleep at this game at 30 frames per second. It's like, wake me up when I need to do something.
Right.
They could have done 60 frames. Yeah. I'm really convinced of that.
I think one of the things that came out was that they had the opportunity, but I think it would have left for, I think, what was it? Uncapped. I think they were speaking on.
Right? Uncapped frames. Yeah.
And he wanted something that was more specific, that was, set in stone. I guess that was the
quote unquote cinematic.
Exactly. So he wanted the cinematic 30, which that's Todd Howard
for a lot of people.
It's filmic, if I must.
Oh boy.
I think
filmic.
I think for a lot of people, a solid 30 is probably going to be better than a unstable 60, right?
Sure.
If it's jumping from 30 to 60 all the time, that never feels good.
True.
Yep. Absolutely.
Gentlemen, listen, I got to bounce. I know that I'm going to miss out on the good talk, but listen, it's awesome to hang out with you guys for about an hour. Enjoy the rest of your spoiler cast. Umbra, I'll see you tomorrow,
sir.
brother.
All right, brother.
It always a pleasure having you, Mr. Boomstick XL. Thank you so much, sir, for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Guys, have a great night. Take care.
All
right.
So let's get into it, gentlemen. We talked about our initial impressions. We're talking about some interesting things that we're finding. We're talking about some good. Some people talking about a little bit of the bad. Let's get into the spoilers properly. Who wants to talk about the end of this game? Because I feel like the end of this game requires a conversation in addition to what happens after this game.
So,
Lucius,
let me ask you, Kay.
Yeah. Okay.
You spoke briefly on the RBLB thing and everything, but we didn't quite delve into those. Into
the powers. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Did you want to kind of touch on that, or you want to just skip?
Sure. No. Absolutely. Tell me if need, like, because I know that some people, as Boom said, some people saw it and went, "Ooh, that's cool," and then they were just so used to their play style because they'd been playing it for 30 hours that it became a novelty and then just moved on. And others made it so that this thing became part and parcel of how they played after those things happened. What side of it did you fall on? Yeah.
For me, it was moderate, right? So typically I just played it, gunning, and I guess I'm used to kind of like the Splinter Cell-ish style of play. So I'm more cautious and in the shadows, waiting to see if somebody runs by before I take them out. That's just my style, right? I don't run and gun typically with these types of games. However, when I did get the powers, one of my favorites was the anti-gravity field. So guys would rush after you after a moment, or you might come to some type of installment, or not installment, but a base where the alarm is sounded. I'm sure you all have come across that, and a bunch of guys will rush in at you. So I would just hit the power with them, Starfield's version of Fos Roda, and have these guys floating in the air and just start picking them apart. I love it so much. I would say my second favorite power will probably be parallel self, where you can create a clone of yourself and do damage that way too. Just things like that was really, really cool. There's many more, supernova, etc. So things like that.
real quick, you kind of skipped right over it. That parallel self, that's not a clone of yourself. That, based on what they're saying, that is
another universe.
That is you. Yeah. That is you on what is it? New game plus 15 that just shows up to like what? That's just crazy.
1-6, and I'm on right. That's Marvel.
Imagine if you're playing a new game plus game, and out of nowhere you just get teleported to go assist somebody, and then teleport back. just to kind of come. Oh yeah, that was you from that time.
I'm still waiting for that to happen. Well. I want that to happen.
Wouldn't that be bananas? Because that could happen. Right? Wouldn't that be bananas? Like, come on. All right. So how about you, Lucius? What powers became your go-to? What were you one of those who were like, oh, this is cool, and then went back to your guns, or did you become like a wizard?
the power that I used the most was the slow time ability.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I used it so much that I found out that in rare occasions it's bugged because
yep, it breaks the game.
It's a combination of if you have an upgrade for your jetpack where when you are floating up in the air and you look down the barrel of your gun, time slows down a little bit. If you do that and the time slowing thing at the same time, which during combat might just happen, it creates this like anomaly where all time stops forever.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. And the only way for you to be able to reset it is to activate the ability again. But if you don't have I don't remember what they call the
the power
essence.
Energy. Yeah.
If you don't have enough energy for it, you have to use one of the Starborn essences to refill yourself and deactivate the ability, or else like time is just it just slows down forever, and you can't really interact with anything because time needs to be moving for you to be able to open doors.
Interesting. So you can bork the game if you bork time if you're not careful. Interesting.
Yeah, you can mess with time really easily.
Speaking of which, Lucius, that one is called phased time.
Phased time. Interesting. And I've gotten all of them. I haven't played with all of them like incessantly. I've most likely tested them all out, but because we've been playing so many hours and you're so knee deep in all your process and whatnot, you end up just augmenting your process with maybe one or two of these powers and moving forward, and most likely missing out on some very interesting stuff. Super cool.
That's how it should be, really, because it's like the powers should augment the type of person that you're trying to be. So for me, because I'm trying to be Spike Spiegel and I'm using pistols, it makes sense for me to be able to stop time and shoot everyone in the head.
Yeah. Phase time, to your point of you were mentioning VATS earlier, that's pretty much VATS right there.
That's what it is. Yes, that is VATS. That's as close to VATS as you can get in this game, right? And all you need now is a mod, Lucius, real quick. All you need is a mod now that every time you slow time, it starts playing the Cowboy Bebop theme in the background. That'd be pretty amazing. Freaking awesome. Come on.
One of the great things about the powers is when you get into New Game Plus and stuff and you start doing the temples again, doing the temples makes sense because you gain abilities. Like the abilities get better. Either the time, like they take less time
or
to
less power,
activate, or it requires less power, or some combination.
Isn't that crazy, right? Isn't that crazy that even in this RPG where you finish the game, right, and now you're in New Game Plus, now you got to RPG up the thing you got in the first one. So the more you play it, the better it gets.
Well, remember,
it's like
Todd did say that the game kind of gives you what you put into it, right?
Yeah.
The more you put into it, the more.
Well, but these guys say a lot of things, but this is the first time it actually matters.
In this case, this NG Plus, you actually gain more by playing it more times. So it's interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the things that's interesting is that some of the powers, they're not really that good at level 1. But at level
until
10,
you played it like
useful.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And I think that's where I kind of want to get to before we end this show. I want to get to what the ultimate look of this game looks like, because I feel it kind of makes me feel like, based on the systems that we're now uncovering, the ultimate form of this game is after you've played it like 80 times. Like after you've rolled credits multiple times. What does that look like? Is there an infinite amount of replayability where you just it becomes diminishing returns, just stats? Or do you get to a place where you are now Goku, Super Saiyan 15, as it were? You know what I'm saying? Because every time that's right? Every time you go through the rounds, you're getting more and more and more and more. Like, I've never, obviously, some of us are in various levels of New Game Plus. How far does it go, I wonder?
It goes up to 10.
There's no limit to it, right?
Each power goes up to 10. You have no limit when it comes to your level. But here's something that we have to talk about. and it's kind of the philosophical side of this game.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to accumulate power,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do all the things that you need to be able to do to get as strong as physically possible, you have to become the hunter. You become someone, and as you play more and more and more games, the interactions between the characters become less important, not because the people are less important, but because of so much repetition and so interacting with so much of the same people. At some point, it degrades on you as a human being. This game is very interesting because philosophically, you either end up being happy with your own universe, living where you are, having your ships, having all your camps, having all that stuff, or B, going for power, going through the Unity. And if you go through the Unity, there are two paths that you can take. The first path is, at some point you realize that power isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is the people who are around you. And that's when you stop your chasing for power and you stay exactly where you are, and you create all the bases and everything else. And that's probably when you end your game. But as you are accumulating power, as you're chasing that urge, going from one universe to the other, going through the Unity and experiencing those things, you yourself are changing. You are becoming the hunter in a lot of ways, and you start understanding his mentality a lot more. It's very interesting because a lot of people see that and they say, well, what's the point? And I can tell that those people didn't read, because in one of the last missions, you have to read the life of the nomad, the person who left all these clues for you to be able to find. And you find out that the nomad is most likely an earlier version of the hunter. It's probably the same person that I'm not going to spoil anything, but the person that we know that the hunter is, that person, it was probably them through the many times that they've gone through the Unity, choosing to stay, and then at some point choosing to continue to keep going on, or some version of them continue to keep going on. And the different stories that this game tells through the lens of this kind of fractured multiverse thing, it's just so interesting to me, and I don't understand why people say it's boring.
and hold on, and to that point, right? And he makes a very good point. If you recall your first time through the loop, right, when you're making that decision, it's kind of jarring on the other side, right? Even though it's technically just a restart. When I first went through it, I kind of played the first couple of missions as if I still was my old self, right? So I kind of like immediately jumped into a dogfight and realized, oh, I don't have my ship, I don't have my weapons, right? I'm not prepared for this situation, and that's kind of a I don't know if I've ever had that feeling in a game, right? When you do a restart of a game, right? Because usually they give you your items, but in this game, because you spend so much time building things, right, that kind of matter to you, like I said earlier, you kind of fall in love with your ship, right? And you kind of have to choose to lose all that stuff. So he makes a good point. I don't think any. I haven't seen another game kind of elicit that kind of feeling for me when I'm like, damn, I'm losing everything to do this next thing. So you kind of have to make this choice in your head, like, what's my ultimate goal, right? So it's like once you start going through the loops, you stop doing base building because it doesn't matter for you anymore, because it's like I just need more power, right? So it's like, yeah, it's interesting.
And that's
that
so
becomes
dope.
a game onto itself. That's what's so dope about it.
That's so dope how you all explained that, because again, it comes back to the main character syndrome, where you feel like I'm the only person that experienced this way, right? No, I experienced the exact same feeling that you guys are describing here. And that honestly, it was so weird. It's only one other game that I can think of off the top of my head. And there are other games, Red Dead Redemption 2, where emotionally it caught me in a way with, with Arthur and things like that. And just since we are doing a spoiler thing, I am going to mention who the person is, by the way, Lucius. But the thing that caught me, for instance, was in The Last of Us 2. where at the end there you are left with this kind of
hey now, this is a spoiler chat for Starfield.
I'm bringing home. I'm Starborn.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm in a parallel universe right now, so I can break this.
Spoiler alert for Last of Us 2. Go.
So, spoiler alert for The Last of Us 2 is when you get to the end and you're trying to get revenge on with Addie, and you see now what she's become. You see she's been abused and both physically and sexually. You see now that she's a slim shadow shell of her former self, but you still have this want for revenge. At least Ellie does, but I didn't. So at a point I forgave her, and I felt so stupid to say that to myself. It's like, no, not after what she did. She killed Joel, right? But I felt so bad for her that I'm like, nah, I'm gonna let her keep that, right? Like let you go ahead and go your way. I'm gonna go my way. But Ellie wasn't having none of that. Ellie was like, you're gonna die. Oh, you thought I freed you? Oh, no. Take some of these stabs really quick, right? So, and I felt such a villain as Ellie. I'm like, Ellie, what are you doing to me? I felt like the bad guy. I'm like, you got to stop this game. Stop this. So one thing I will give them credit for, Naughty Dog, is that they grabbed that emotion from me that I didn't think I would have for a game. Starfield actually did that too here, and I didn't think it was going to do that, because when I got through this, and I had a relationship with Sarah, I married her and everything in my first playthrough. Nice.
See, it speaks to a lot of people. Like, so you chose Sarah, right?
I did.
Who else chose Sarah?
Who did you guys choose?
I chose Sarah, but I wanted Andreja.
Okay.
I chose her.
I chose
only to get it out the way, and then it said,
I chose Andreja as well.
I'll get Andreja. But then I got caught in the power trip, and I know we're back to Andreja.
See, Hunter. Look what
eventually I'll come back. But right
so
now,
I didn't see Andreja at first, but I immediately, just talking with Sarah, I was like, she's pretty dope. I like her. You know, I can see this is clearly she's one of the.
She a Karen, man. She a Karen. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a little bit. She was just a really goody two-shoe type, right? But
that's what it is.
She was. But like the more I spent, talking with her and things like that, and she, I brought you a little gift, a little twig or something like that. No, that's nice. Okay, I'll throw that on the floor, but thank you. But just experiencing that and actually being cool with having started a relationship, married her, and then you get to the end and you're left with this thought of you get to jump to a new universe as Starborn, and you become this ascended being now. What do you choose? Do you stick in this? Because you can choose to refuse it. You could choose to stay.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, no, I got to see what's on this other side, because I didn't know
anything.
That's right. And I didn't want anybody to spoil it for me online. Yeah. I needed to see what happens when I go through this Unity.
Yeah.
I left. I'm thinking in my head, maybe I can come back. You cannot come back.
No, you cannot go back.
And once I got there, and you, like you said, you get to the lodge, you're speaking with everybody. They don't know who the hell you are yet. And I'm playing it. I'm like, okay, I'll be cool. I'm just going to get to this next part to get back to her eventually. And the more it started to sink in, like, no, you're not you anymore. This is
they even give you when you reintroduce yourself to them, they make it clear like, oh, you're not my person, right?
Exactly.
And you gotta, and they kind of are like more guarded towards you because of that, right? You're a fucking alien. You're an alien at that point.
You absolutely are alien. And you're speaking to them when you have this familiarity with them, but they don't know you. And you're listening to them, and after a point, you start to feel a bit mechanical. You start to feel a bit shut off, a bit distant. And then I started to realize, oh, this is what the damn Hunter was experiencing. And he'd been going through this for however long, hundreds of years he'd been doing it. No wonder he was so cut off. And that's the thing that caught me. I'm like, oh, I'm only I was well into the hundreds of hours at that point, but still, I'm only this far in my first jump through to a new universe. And I started to feel emotionless to the people I'm talking to now, because these are not the people I connected with. This is not my universe. These are not my people. I didn't want harm to come to them, but I can guarantee once I'm a new game 3. Now, if I keep going to new game 10, I couldn't care less what happens to them. That's probably what's going to happen. But that's the only other time I can think of in a game that made me feel like morally sad, or at least empty, once I realized, oh no, I'm not going to be able to connect with them.
They're all just fodder after a while.
All just fodder now.
Let me jump in real quick.
It don't matter to me anymore.
Go ahead.
Identify who
coming
got
from.
killed.
Starborn.
Say that again, Pixel. Say it one more time.
Identify who got killed for you, who died in your constellation.
In mine, at first it was Sarah, but I did a little resave load up. I was like, nah, she's not dying here. So it was what's his name? The cowboy.
Oh, Sam Cole. Wow. Okay.
Sam Cole. So he ended up being obviously the other Starborn once you meet. And by the way, the keeper Aquilas, he was the hunter. It comes to find out. This is a spoiler cast, guys. So we can
let's go.
So in my universe, Keeper Aquilas is the hunter. Barrett was the Starborn. Was the Barrett got killed.
So it's whoever dies. Mine was Sarah Morgan.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah Morgan died for me, and I feel like the reason why she died is because at the beginning of the game, I did a lot of missions with her. So like our companionship was really high. So the game was like, okay, it's either going to be her or Sam Coe. And, shout out to my dude, Sam Coe. I couldn't let him die. So shout out to you, Sarah.
But yeah, the funny thing is that that's a dope mechanic for the game because it looks at the two people you spent the most time with, and one of those people wind up dying. So that's kind of dope.
Who do you care?
It's funny.
You get to save them, right? If you go through enough loops, if you replay the missions fully, then because you know what's going to happen, you actually can save.
You can stop.
The first time somebody has to die.
It's funny with me and Sam Coe. That dude annoyed the hell out of me, but because I just so happened. Go ahead.
You got a minute? No, seriously. Do you have a minute?
Yeah.
We can talk. Do you have a minute? All day, like you're in the middle. You're like in the middle of a freaking shootout, and here comes Sam. Hey, bro, you got a minute, right?
And like, his daughter, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. Get this Firefly. It's a Firefly derivative, which I'm a big Firefly fan. So the dude and his kid and his sister, like the whole thing. It's not the same, but it's kind of a derivative from Firefly. But because I just happened to, as soon as I met him, I also just happened to start the factions mission that had him included throughout the whole thing. I spent a lot of time with him, even though I didn't want to. Right? I was like, get me back. That's right. Get me back to Sarah. Like, what's going on? So, as we've all have already established, as soon as you start the game, you spend a lot of time with Sarah, and I was building a rapport, and then I had to go to the Freestar Rangers quest, and I just happened to fall into the Freestar Rangers quest. And with that came Sam, right? And Sam, I was not having it. Like, get me out of here. I want to go back. So ultimately, when that decision came, I'm like, get out of here. This is how I get rid of Sam? Hell yeah. Sam is gone. He was dusted.
Let me let you know something. Let me let you know the repercussions of your actions.
Please.
Because you let Sam die, now his little girl
is gonna hate me.
No, not only is she gonna hate you, she will chase you through the Unity forever.
I didn't know that.
Are you serious?
Now, does she really do that?
To be fair, she chases all of us through the Unity forever because some version of us let her dad die, and the version of her whose dad died, she went through the Unity as a child and went through hundreds of years of just battle grit and insanity. And in one of the new game pluses that you can have, you go to the lodge and everyone's dead
there
because she killed everyone and she's waiting.
Wow. That's amazing.
I had no idea.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I had no idea.
It keeps
that's crazy.
Go ahead, Umbra. Go ahead. Yeah.
At all. And one of the things I was interested in finding is, can I save everyone? Because that's the hero in us. You want to save everybody. You can't.
Is it possible to save everybody
on your first playthrough? You can't.
Definitely not. No.
On the second through, you can.
You can save everybody. Okay. See, and I guess a part of this spoiler cast was me just coming here to understand the full capabilities of this game, because it blows my mind that they spent more time on post campaign than the actual campaign, which seems to take forever to go through the first time you get through it. But then you realize like the actual campaign is not the real game here. It's after the campaign, after you've rolled credits and you go again and again and again, and all the various craziness you discover. I hear there's an instance where you go into the constellation and everybody's a child.
Yes.
Like all of them are children.
There's all children. There's all Starfield. All Starborns.
Yeah. There's all versions of you.
It's like it's like they have like all these crazy permutations. Like
there are,
and the answer to that question is all what? Decisions. That's it.
Yeah. I think that there are around currently 15 different unique variations of universes that you can go that you can interact across. And by unique, I mean like there's a lot of things different from them. And most of the post your first universe will have some small things here and there different about them, but mostly everything will be the same. But there are currently 15 known permutations of like a variant universe where you walk into the lodge and something insane happens. And like I expect as we get more and more expansions, they will only increase the amount of different permutations and universes that you can run into. So
you know what, Lucius, I appreciate you doing that.
You're going to be.
Let's get all the way there. Let's talk post game. Let's talk post campaign, right? 2023, by the time we're talking about this, right? But as you know, Bethesda joints, they have long tails. You know, I expect this game is still in the zeitgeist 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. Someone is playing Starfield. How does Starfield look in this time? What do we expect they will add to it within this time? Because here we are, we are in a world where you can play Skyrim right now, and by and large, depending on the mods you choose, it's better looking than any game you've ever played. They've added so much to the game. You can play Skyrim right now with AI NPCs. That is the world we live in today, a world that did not exist when the game was initially created. So I will go with you first, Mr. Pixelbit G. Shoot for the moon, sir. 10 years between now and 10. What do you expect we see here?
Star bases.
Okay.
Definitely vehicles. Star base, not just bases, but building, right? Having your own focus
that persists.
Persistent, yep.
Okay. So you're talking multiplayer then.
I think
if I have my base and you have your base and it's persistent in this world, it's a multiplayer.
I think there may be a way at some point for them to add multiplayer, though. The question would be how does that work in the case where if you're still jumping through loops or not, right?
Maybe it's a different mode, a different launch, a side of the launcher, a different mode from the launcher that gives you just a place where all Starborn play.
Yeah, I mean it's siloed enough that they could reach that point, I think, right? But I think just like in terms of like just pure single player adventure type stuff,
yeah,
you get to the point where we're building our own bases, like full on moon bases, like not just the small sections we have now. You have space stations, right? Being able to build your own space station, so that's a new build mode, right? To have your own space station. Major improvements to the way the economy works, right? Because there's inside the game, right? There's the whole manufacturing and shipping functionality in the game there's a lot there, but there isn't like a lot to do with it, right? You can get some missions and stuff like that, but there's an economy there. So I would expect like bigger expansions of that part of the economy, including better management tools of that nature, so that you can, if you just want to be a mogul and make money in the universe, then boom, you just make money in the universe, right? Maybe additional ways of doing the jacking, like where you get jacked, right, for ships and stuff like that, right? That kind of thing. right? So just more. I think I see them doing like a lot more things related to expanding how you could play in the universe, as well as obviously there's just still so much room for story in this universe, right?
More stories. Yep.
So people are like, oh, why is there no aliens? I'm like, bro, the whole Starborn thing is so alien as a concept. There's a lot of things you could do before you ever get to aliens, right? We didn't spend a lot of time with the Varun, which their power base is based on Starborn technology, right? So at some point we need to know, how did that happen, right? How did they get those powers? How did they get those weapons, right? How were they formed? That kind of thing. So learning about the history of that group would be dope. Introduction of other groups, or at some point additional races, right? Because it's such it's like we have the known, what do they call it? The known systems. There's a saying they call it in the game, right? The I think
settled systems.
Settled systems, right?
Systems, yeah.
So we're aware of the settled systems, right? But that map can keep extending, right? So it's like, what happens outside of that range, right?
Pixel, I told you at some point. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
I was saying that map is only a small section of the Milky Way galaxy. That is not anywhere. Like, if we think about like aliens in the way that we think, like a foreign body, that like whatever, those things, there's a good chance that they're in a different galaxy somewhere, and that might be outside of the scope of what Starfield is trying to do. It may just try to keep things inside of this galaxy.
See, I was just about to say, I was talking to Pixel on Twitter at some point, and we were just chopping it up about potential ideas. I'm like, I want them to blink into the Unity and then come out, and instead of landing where they've always landed, I want them to be in space over a half-cracked Halo ring. That's what I want.
That would be dope.
Give me that.
They put something like that in there, man.
You know,
I would love that.
Right?
You fall into the Doom's version of Earth, right? Like
exactly,
like that,
right?
You
combine
Mars,
the worlds,
right?
That's
but
right.
It's the Doom Mars, right? Like, there's just so many things they could do with it. It's like,
what if they gave us a DLC? You know, the one of them we're hearing already is Shattered Dimensions.
Shattered Dimensions, yeah.
What if it had been one where like they add you go through the Unity, and you have to go through Unity to trigger it, and when you do, you land on Earth in that universe, which is soon to be doomed because of the gravitational technology they found, and you have
so basically you go to the past,
right? And you have to try, or at least you're left with the task of either saving their Earth, or dooming it.
Yeah.
I wonder if something,
because if you save it, you're basically like almost altering their future and your future,
right?
But dooming it means you exist, but you're basically watching all these people die. Like, wow, what a concept, what a thought. Yeah. How about you there, Mr. Umbra? 10 years.
10
How does this game look like? Because it's going to exist. How does it look like?
Well, I feel like the mods is absolutely what needs to happen, right? So that's going to happen soon enough. They already spoke on it. We know that people are going to go crazy with it. What I would like to see, at least officially from Bethesda, is enhanced like the shipbuilding. One of the things that I did love, and I know a lot of people spoke on it, is shipbuilding. I shared some of my stuff on my Twitter and things like that. But
pathfinding,
the fighting and all that is problematic. But if I was to give them a point on that, I would definitely say improve on it. Like, maybe they can add a little something to that. But on a shipbuilding, the modules are kind of limited. I know you get much more, and I did get much more because I got my characters at a high level to get all the other modules, but it's fairly limited. And after a point when you're making a ship, it looks a bit, how do I put this? Robloxy, or not Robloxy. What's the name of that? It's like Lego, but not Lego. What do they call it? It's those blocks, but they're not quite.
Yeah, Duplo,
Mega Block.
maybe?
Mega
blocks. There you go.
It starts to look a little mega bloxy. It doesn't look, sleek and everything. It looks clear.
It's a little cookie cutter, chop, kind of stitched together. I get you.
I want them to expand on it when it comes to that. And also too, like when you look at the ship and you get these different bays and things, like you could put in a medical bay, right? Or you could put in a prison part like you lock up people, but you don't get a chance to really use that except for inside of a mission with prison one.
Yep.
I want to be able to actually catch bounties and put them in there and travel with them like that, and maybe create other opportunities where they can break out or something and take my ship, and I have to go find them or something. Or maybe with the medical bay that people can actually, the doctors on board could actually heal me or give me, heal pastes or whatever throughout.
You're speaking a lot of Mass Effect talk right now.
Yeah.
A lot of Mass Effect talk. I'm just saying, pointing it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, if I'm going to go to Mass Effect route with that, let me add to that. One of the things I thought we would have by getting to the end of this, and what I thought was going to originally happen with the whole Unity thing, I thought it was going to be more that once we figure out what the Starfield is, it would lead us to other intelligent life. I thought we would meet actual aliens. Aliens, you know what I mean? That's what I thought was going to happen. That we were going to be introduced into extraterrestrial life in that form. Much like,
I mean, it still could happen, right?
Technically, and it still can happen.
I don't think it will, if I'm being honest.
And
because of the NASA punk style, huh?
No, it's because of the type of story that they're trying to tell. They're trying to tell a very human story. It's all about like human emotions, human experiences, how we interact with each other, how we care for each other, stuff like that. Like that's what they're trying to emphasize.
Don't care once we become a Starborn. But my thing is, even with that being the case and that story they're telling, I think you can have both. I don't think it's an either or. I think you can have that and get introduced in that extra life, in that extraterrestrial life, should I say, and still have that humanity being a question at both. I think it actually expands it. Do they have the same outlook on things as we do, being a different species? I think all of that can be explored personally. I would say too, I don't know how far you guys got with the like the outpost system. I got pretty extensive. I never really actually talked about that, but I got pretty extensive with mine, where I had several settlements in different star systems on different planets. And at a point though, it does get very limited. And I would like them to really expand on that and allow for more in the terms of that. Cause like you get to the point where you want to make your retirement home, as they say, whatever. Kind of limited. You don't really, it's only something you can do.
This is what I was talking about, where in certain aspects I feel like while while you've heard me say I feel like the sum of its parts elevated beyond any of the others that it's cribbing from.
Yeah.
But in certain components of it, I feel are less than to a point where I don't even want to interface with it. Like the base building, like the outposts. To me, No Man's Sky does it better. They spend a lot of time doing it better. And I'd rather spend my time there building that base there because it persists and lasts forever versus this one, which is in a single player that will go away once I'm gone. Whereas their version stays. You can literally give people your address and they can show up there when you want them to, right? Like, I feel like that's where, if this is your first experience with it, it is brilliant. But since they cribbed it from what I consider the hardcore variant of that, it makes it feel cheap for me to spend time in that one. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Now, I had never had the chance to play No Man's Sky. Well, I had the chance, but I've seen those things. I've seen the gameplay of it, so I know what you're talking about.
Very dynamic. People create crazy things in that world because the tools just allow for that. But of course, the flip side of that is, because the tools allow for that and they're so extensive, you want to have a good conversation with somebody, it's basically lines that you're reading on a screen and a screenshot, not actual interaction. Obviously, they dedicated their time to that exploration, to that science, to the business of space and all that. And obviously other places suffered for that. Whereas it seems like Starfield is trying to stitch as much of that together and keep it all together as possible. And it's commendable. It just feels like, to your point, I feel like when they have a time to really look at all the sum of its parts, they might want to rework the building systems.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's like they have the ambition to just then go far enough in some aspects.
Yeah.
Whereas
and it might need its own time to really get it to where it could be a competitor to some of the greats. But right now it's not important, at least in my opinion. It's not important for it to be one of the greats. It's important that it at least gets it off the ground competently enough to where all the others are also competent, So I don't hate it that much. I just think that that's, to your point, it's a little bit more detrimental to it.
There's room for improvement, maybe in Starfield 2.
Absolutely. That's a question too. Do we think there's a Starfield 2? I don't know about that.
So when we were in the green room,
yeah.
Go ahead, green room, I put my kind of tinfoil Kofi theory towards you guys.
Yes, sir.
Share
which was essentially, this is what's happening right now is a multiversal time loop fracture, and there's a few things that kind of tell us that this is probably the case. The fact that the Starborn phenomenon seems to be located within a couple 100-year time span. You would imagine, if going through the Unity, if it could put you in any specific universe in any time and space, there's an opportunity that it puts you in prehistoric times, right? Like, and you go to Earth and there's a bunch of dinosaurs and everything, but that doesn't happen. And the reason why that doesn't happen is I think that there is a specific nexus point that caused the fracturing of this multiverse. And I think that the first expansion, Shattered Space, is the first in many expansions that will go into what is going to be the truth of the situation. I think that that the Varun and the original leader of the Varun, I can't remember his name, but that guy, I think that he was a Starborn. There are a few people in the story that you meet that in New Game Plus you learn that those people are Starborn. There are specific vendors that only cater to you once you become a Starborn. So there are far more Starborns in these universes than we initially thought. We first thought that it was only the people who are attacking us, but as we go through more and more through the Unity, start more Starborn in these universes than we initially expected. And I think that Bethesda could take that in a very interesting direction. And because I see it as a very human story, I don't see them kind of going the alien route. I see them focusing on the story that they have right now about the Unity and about the fracturing and about all of this other stuff, and just lean into all of that. Fix some of the things that people are mad about, like give people a better way to traverse throughout like larger planets, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think that they're not going to shift what their vision was, and I think that they're only going to push this human story more and more and more. And as we go through the Unity multiple times, I think that they're going to provide some pretty unique experiences for us in the future.
I don't disagree. Looking at how much time and energy has been spent in the post game, I think there's a lot of interesting things there that many of us just haven't discovered yet, right? There are some who are no-lifing it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end and discovering interesting things, but I feel like some of those trickling out of information about, hey, it can do this or it can do that, or have you noticed this or this capability, that will still be part of our life with Starfield for quite some time. I think that's where they are with it. Now, before we get out of here, because I feel like we've had a very, very well-rounded conversation about this game and all the aspects of it, but we cannot have a Starfield talk without all the meta-narrative conversation around Starfield. So for a short amount of time, I would like to just weigh in on that a little bit, right? This game came to us with thoughts that it would be a game of a generation, and by and large, it has proven to be so for some, right? But others say it's a complete disappointment. It's not what it was purported to be, and the Bethesda jank is here worse than ever, and obviously there's a 7 out of 10 of it all and all that, but we don't even need to go that far in it. I want to keep it to the genuine place where the people are being genuinely critical of it, and get your takes on it. Do you think this game warrants genuine, it was boring, I hated it criticism? I will start with you, Pixel Bit G?
Show me a genuine take. So
are you saying every take is not genuine?
No. I'm saying, how do I identify the ones that are genuine, right? If you've so here's my thing, right? Name a game that we played, or a game maker that has been making games for 20 years and we've enjoyed their type of game for a long time, right? And then give me their latest version of their game, and then tell me how you all of a sudden don't like that type of game. I mean, so it's complicated, right? For people who, if previously you liked that type of game and all of a sudden you don't, I question why you don't like it anymore. Only because I like this type of game, and it's similar to the games that I played before, and I've loved those. I love this one, right? They're not that far apart from each other, right? The debate about jank, this game is not that janky. Like, come on, like the biggest,
the least buggiest Bethesda game at launch.
It's one of the least buggiest games that come out this year, right? This game is not crashing your system.
I will say, every time anybody says that, I gotta laugh. I apologize.
Yeah,
you gotta laugh. This is the least buggiest Bethesda game of all.
It doesn't mean much, right? But
it means a lot to those who know.
Who knows? That's right. Let's be clear. I agree with you. I do. But it's just hilarious to hear that said out loud, and people mean that earnestly. I'm like, come on.
But the size and scale of this game, I've seen less clipping and weirdness in this game than Spider-Man.
Yes.
And
although I will say, I'm king of the finding of the bugs. Like, check out my Twitter timeline. It's not like I even look for it. I just fall headfirst into every bug that's known to man in every game I play. It just happens. I did find bugs in this game, but I did have a lot more Spider-Man bugs than I did.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it doesn't have any bugs, right? There's two bugs that I ran into that were persistent in my first 200 hours. Was the one with the asteroids following you, and I built like 30 outposts initially, right? So in those outposts, I would build like my ship. The ship built the landing pad, right? The big landing pad. There's two landing pads. The big landing pad at times would not spawn my ship. And then you have to go like this whole
that is weird.
So you're basically stuck on the planet, right? Unless you can, because I was always over encumbered, right? Because I'm not dropping under my 10 million items, right? So so you can't spawn the ship, so you have to like go through a whole little song and dance to get it to happen. But like very few, I don't recall many instances where my missions broke. The game didn't crash to desktop ever. Like,
I think the only time the missions, I had two mission broken games. One was when one of the constellation was killed, and I didn't want to be at the funeral. I think I spoke to you about that.
Oh yeah, because you didn't go to the planet. Yeah.
I didn't press X to mourn, so they had to come after me, and it became a thing. That's one, and the other one was after I'd gone through Sarah's like complete mission, all of her companion missions. There was a place where she wanted to have like a heart to heart or some kind, and at the time she wanted to have it, I just wasn't hearing it. I was busy doing other things. So at any point in time, in any mission, anywhere, she's like, "Hey, you want to talk a little bit? Hey, you want to have a quick chat? Hey, you want to?" I mean, and her voice is echoing through the speakers of the game while I'm in the middle of a firefight, and she's nowhere near me. She's probably on Earth, like on another planet. Like, I am not following her. She's not following me. She's not a companion. But do you want to chat a little bit? It's still like ringing through the speakers because they need this mission to be accomplished, right? Those were kind of some game breaking things. But you reboot it, you start again. You make a different move. You choose a different mission. You finish something with her, and that traverses that, right? That circumvents that. The only other stuff that I was having bugs on that was kind of funny and ridiculous and weird was every once in a while one thing would lead to another. And specifically Paris Lily, I'm sorry, Vlad, I'd get stuck with him. We'd be chatting and he would just stop and just look at me because the conversation is over now, right? But his disapproving stare is just kind of looking at you.
Why are you still here, comrade? Why?
That's right. And he won't speak. He just has that disappointing glare, and he's just and then I'm like, okay, well, let me start if I can break this. If I can break the lock, right? So I'm moving my controller all the way to the left, moving my controller, and he's just there looking at you. Half his face is there with his disappointing stare. I'm looking at this man. I'm looking at inappropriate body parts. He's just standing there looking at you.
He's like in Outpost Russia 228,
right?
I stare at you.
And I'm sorry. You some of us here have icons, avatars that prove the point. Some of us don't, but I'm gonna speak on it. Let's speak on the black for real quick, because I know there's black people in this room.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Let's speak on the black real quick.
The wig situation going on, because it's not very good. Yeah.
There you go.
NPCs
Let's call out the fact
are not very convincing.
Are not very convincing. True.
There's whoever coded the concept of blackness in the game forgot that there were black hairstyles, right? Even though I did see later, maybe a couple of patches later, that some guys were showing up in the city with the right hairstyles.
With the right hair, okay. So, maybe they caught an episode of GCP. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll take credit for that one.
They had the dead eye bug going on at the beginning.
Yeah,
there was some side missions that wouldn't load in. On a killer. Like 2 missions in particular, like one where you have to break some rocks, and one where you had to place some trackers, where the position of the placements wouldn't load in. But considering I did like 200 missions,
realistically, it's not the worst thing.
I'll take 2, right?
And real quick, let's talk about how Paris Lily does need to go contact his lawyers, because come on, we're not fooled by Vlad and his Russian accent.
Giving him a Russian accent is somehow.
I was just like, come on. First off, that just looks weird. He opens his mouth and it's just like, it's just weird. And B, you're not fooling nobody.
Black people are everywhere. I bet there's black Russians.
I know black Russians. I know personally black Russians, and even I felt insulted by them, because come on, I wasn't as insulted as I was. I was just as insulted as I was. Like, it harkened back to, my cousin Nico. I was like, get out of here with that crap. It gave me GTA 4 vibes. That's what ridiculous accents. Ridiculous accent. Anyway,
Vladimir here, real name was Taurus.
His lines were pretty bad.
They were like high
lines, right?
What is it? To kiss the sun or whatever the hell.
Like, you Starborn, I feel like I should be praying to so and so. Like, what?
Vladimir, did you guys ever get to his secret hideout?
Of course, I did.
Random planet
his
somewhere.
His crib was fire.
It's fire, bro.
Yo, his crib is so off the chain. I'm like, yo, I need this guy's crib. You know what I'm saying?
This man did some serious pirating before.
That's right,
bro.
That's right. Yeah. The first thing I did was try to get to his planet, to his secret hideout, and of course, it takes a long time to get there if you don't have the proper ship. So eventually, I got there, and I was just like, yo, this brother walking around with the wife beater on, acting like he ain't got grip. Dude, what are you doing? Like, woof.
Why are you living on the ugly eye when you got that crib?
Yeah. Why are you letting these constellationers like just boss you around like the token black getting worked on when you clearly I'm sorry, never mind. Forgive me.
Speaking of special hideouts and stuff, that was one of the dopest missions, where you basically essentially invading what was the futuristic space Batman's lair.
Mm-hmm. You mean the Mantis? Yes, Space Batman. Yes.
Just thinking of that. But to get back on point to your question, as far as those comments and such on what people found.
Yes. What do you think of all of that? Yes.
I do agree with Pixel to a degree. A lot of these people were disingenuous, so it's kind of hard for us to say, hey, what was a genuine take? But then you get to a point too where you're like, how far do we go with saying that's not a genuine take before we just realize maybe that's just their opinion, right?
Yeah, well, like I said,
this is my point.
I can give you an example.
Go ahead, Lucius.
I watch a lot of Jeff Grubb stuff, right? Like, I'm a Jeff Grubb enjoyer. Right.
Right.
It's not.
Wow. I feel like I need to say pause, but I'll let that one slide. Continue.
So it's not like I'm coming from a place of hate, but I have seen in real time this man go from saying that he liked the game and just having everyone at Giant Bomb and everyone in the industry shit on the game so much when he's just like, oh no, I liked it. And like I'm seeing in real time his opinion decrease of the game over the past 2 months and or so. And it's not like, once again, his initial opinion, him playing the game, him stopping to play the game to play other games or whatever, the experience that he had, genuinely good. He enjoyed it all. He said that he loved playing the game while he was playing it. And then Mike Minotti started saying how he didn't like the game. And then you had more people on the Giant Bomb squad. And once again, this is not shade towards any of them, but this is just reality of, I saw this man go from saying that he loved the game to now saying, oh yeah, the game was okay. And I'm like, bro, what?
So he switched up. You know what? I'm going to say something
the
to that.
perils of peer pressure, huh?
I'm
moving
my direction.
Not,
you can't stop it.
And this is not putting any shade towards him, but it's to show the pressure that is being like exerted when it comes to Starfield. The reason why Starfield is a game of the generation is because every single game that comes out, these people have to compare it to Starfield. Every single aspect. Every indie is trying to use Starfield's name as a way to be able to increase their like their view in the world. Yeah, right. So like so what happens when there's a real game of the generation? People compare everything to that game. And it's not to say that there's ever just one game of the generation. In generations, there are typically a few games of that generation, a few games that like are always compared and looked at as kind of the echelon for one reason or another. And I would argue that Starfield is one of those, simply because these people, like literally, I was watching Game Mess Mornings this morning, right? Jeff Grubb had some dude on. I don't know who that person was. You know, shout out to you. There's no shade towards you. But the guy couldn't keep Starfield out of his mouth. He had to insult Starfield 3 times during the like 45 minutes that Game Mess Mornings was. And none of the conversations had anything to do with Starfield or Bethesda or any of that shit. He brought up Starfield himself when talking about games that he enjoys.
Wow. So you know, I'm not quite the Grubb enjoyer as you. I have watched him and listened to him a few times. I like the guy. I think he's a genuinely good dude. However, I've said this before on my show. I saw, and I had an issue, and I still have an issue with everybody who, and I do the side eye for everybody who wrote off Hogwarts because it went against their agenda and political beliefs. And I don't like this person, so I'm going to use it against that. Jeff Grubb is one of those people that did that. And so I don't trust him when it comes to reviews and game. And you just cemented it by saying that. So I'm like, he'll switch up on you. I see that
moment. That was a dark moment for me because once again, I understand that video games are art, and it's an amalgamation of technology, art, and
art. Yeah. And it's super, super difficult. And if someone successfully is able to execute even the smallest, like high school project, like your first little indie thing that came out of the App Store, people want to pat you on the back because it's so hard to do it. And then these people recreate Hogwarts world so well. And yes, you hate the source material, no doubt about it. But you're gonna literally like just like disappear. All these people's like blood, sweat, and tears just because of your agenda, like
your political views of the one person who created it. Like that's completely unfair, but it goes to the point of not just peer pressure, but agendas and political beliefs on how they can shape you giving the game a fair representation or view. But so that just goes to speak that he's been inconsistent in general. Now that I'm hearing this,
the Hogwarts thing it blew me away because I straight up asked him during one of his, and you know, I just submitted a question. I was just like, hey, isn't it important that reviews have some level of integrity to them so that way we know when something is being reviewed, it is being reviewed fairly based off of whatever metric that we try to say is a fair representation of an evaluation of that game. And his response to me was, I don't care if Hogwarts gets treated fairly. and I was not a big fan of that.
See?
Because I was kind of
that's
like
the problem.
That's showing me that one, reviews shouldn't be taken seriously in the first place, because if you people are willing to full out, like, mask off, admit that you can't be objective and properly talk about what this game presents, what it doesn't present. If you want to also talk about your own thing, that's totally fine. But the fact that they're not even willing to hide it with Hogwarts Legacy shows you that maybe we shouldn't, as gamers, put as much homage towards reviews or even these people's opinions, because really it doesn't really seem as if their opinions have a basis for anything.
Yeah, it speaks to the great lack of integrity. And I spoke about this on my show, and it left a sour taste. I felt worse about Hogwarts situation than I did Starfield being snubbed. It really left a bad taste.
Bro, you know how many times I've said that? Like, people want to quickly make it a sports analogy. Your team versus mine. Forget it. I don't care that Starfield or any Microsoft product got snubbed or whatever. They're going to be all right.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the equation. It's not even that I care about the poor Hogwarts devs. I think they'll be fine as well. It's the fact that this thing that I love that should have integrity, but people are so naked on their face and go, yeah, screw you, not because you did a bad thing or because your work was lackluster, but because we have our agenda and it doesn't comport with what you are doing. So even though you so focusedly fit within this frame that we're talking about respecting and loving and paying deference to, we're going to snub you and pretend you don't exist. Like, that tells me that the thing that I love and that I feel has integrity, like, it's devoid of that, right? I'm sorry, Lucius, please continue.
And the big thing for me, I'm looking at it like, I don't understand why there's been so many times that, and I don't want to bring up this card, but as a black man, I have been insulted many a times via video games. And I don't.
You should not feel like it's a card, right? Screw that card BS, man. That's what it is. It's a fact. Keep it moving.
And once again, this isn't me saying that trans people can't feel a sort of way about the game and make their own decisions about whether or not to engage inside of that game. I have no problem with that. In the same way that a lot of my brothers chose not to play Atomic Heart because of the game, because of that cartoon that they put inside of that game, I understood their decision.
Just like my choice not to play Final Fantasy 16 because the dude was not ignorant. He was forcibly malicious.
But in that same situation, under no circumstance,
I'm not going to hate on you for it. If you choose to play
under no circumstance are we calling people who play Atomic Heart racist. Under no circumstance are we going around saying that, like, oh, well, if you played X, Y, and Z game, then I just did not like where that went, where we were making moral arguments based off of somebody playing a video game. And the whole thing about video games is that it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be a relaxing entertainment medium. It's supposed to be something that, like,
it's escapism.
It's escapism, 100%. And to say that because someone wants to play this video game, that they don't care about other humans or that they are a terrible person, I just felt like was not a genuine part of the conversation. And a lot of those same people, to bring it back to Starfield, a lot of those same people, I see a lot of the same arguments to some extent being used towards Starfield, not critiquing the game or how the game chooses to do things, but critiquing Bethesda. And especially if we remember the whole, oh, well, Bethesda doesn't want to give it to certain people. Well, guess who those certain people were? Most of them were Reed Pop motherfuckers. Sorry.
No. Please speak. Yes.
So, like, a lot of those people were coming from Reed Pop. And what do we see from Reed Pop? We see a lot of Xbox slander from Reed Pop. You see a lot of Bethesda slander. Months before Starfield came out, I had never seen the amount of concerted effort to hate on one game than I have seen with Starfield before it even released.
Before and after, I would wager. And that goes to the point. That goes back to the point of what Pixel Bit pointed out earlier about what's genuine. because a lot of these people clearly weren't. You had the Jim Quinzition guy or woman, whatever you want, whatever.
Yeah,
you had this person go out there and then also not fairly give Starfield a fair review because they had a problem with Bethesda. So he gave it a 4, if I'm not mistaken. So things like that. How can you take that serious? And that person.
So we won't go too far. We won't go too far in the direction of the criticism. I will, to your point that you just made there, Umbra, I will say, like, to me, it's a symptom of allowing things like that to happen, right? I don't necessarily blame any one individual, because one thing I've learned on Twitter/X is that every kind of individual exists. It's up to you to let them into your timeline. And by that, I mean, it's up to the gatekeepers, in this case, Metacritic, to allow these people's opinions to have overarching influence in the process, right?
That's the problem.
IGN's review is weighed heavier than anyone else's.
Exactly.
Right? It's not IGN. I'm not saying it's their fault or not their fault. They can do with what they have whatever they want. If we want integrity, it should be those gatekeepers, those places where we go for integrity, that we should then be holding them more accountable. So for me, my pitchforks are with Metacritic. I need them to change their ways that will then force the trickling down of correction for everyone who wants to interface.
100% agreed. And we had this discussion, me and Riskit, on the Xbox Infinite podcast one time, about how it needs to be retooled. We know it's an aggregate site, so it's not like they're just like, oh, this is a full score. This is coming from all different sites. But how they do it,
they should give it guidelines. They should force guidelines and let that be the way it moves. Because let me be clear, and I'll say this, bringing this back around to Starfield, because the end talk about Starfield and all the slander was a really strong part of this game's life when it first came out. And I will contend that because IGN gave it the score they did, it brought the average down enough to where it can be justified and left off of the various games of the year conversation. It's meaningless in the long run. Right? It's meaningless in the long run, but had that overarching weight not been placed there, and they were reviewing it like normal, and people reviewed it from a place of genuineness, I think this thing the conversation to be far different than what it is today. And I think the agendas are really overshadowing a lot of it.
And that goes to my final point. I will point out. Sorry, I was just going to say good. One of my final things about that is, and I agree with you 100% on what you just said, is that it stops genuine conversation about what this is. And the legacy is now, as we all seen, a bunch of hate. And that stems from, unfortunately, our Hoove brothers. You're right. I had to come to mention them at one point. The hate campaign they pushed that helped cement them as being de facto, quote unquote, air quotes, right. And so it just led to them doing more tearing down of this game than it deserved. And had it been on PlayStation, this would not have happened. This was a punishment not only from the Hoove brothers with their hooliganism and shenanigans. It is
hysterics.
It is a part of the media, in which I've said this before, that a lot of these media people are hooved at heart too. They just don't say it. Because a lot of these people grew up on PlayStation. A lot of people grew up on Nintendo. They didn't grow up on Xbox, some of these people. And they have they might not admit it, but they have something that they have against Xbox. It's Xbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they take it out on Xbot, like myself. But I say that to say, the part of why we can't have a genuine conversation or discussion about it is because people have their agendas, as we all acknowledge, and they're not being objective to this game. And that goes from the media on down to our community counterparts on the other side in the stables. And that's the saddest part, I would say to me.
Is that in the stables? I don't know why, but that just makes me laugh.
Because it's a great definition. It's just defines nonsense, right?
So Pixel, while you're speaking, go ahead. Give me your final take on all this nonsense, because we've been talking about this game and all the greatness about it. What do you think of the meta narrative that has built up on this?
I mean, I kind of did I don't see how the majority of reviewers say something is great and a few say it isn't, and we go with the few.
Yeah.
Right? This is the only scenario where we say oh, these 5 guys said this wasn't dope, so who cares what the 75% said, right? So I'm not down with that, right? It's you know, when you ask about genuine commentary, encumbrance is not genuine, right? It's a
no.
functionality,
Yes.
right? It's not genuine. Umbra has had like genuine takes on it, right? He played the game, he enjoyed it, and he scored a reasonable score based on his playtime, noting the things that he felt he had an issue with, right? But if you can't, if we're in a situation where we can't trust reviewers to score things based on the merit of the game and not bring into other nonsense, then what's the point of a scoring system, right? What's the point of reviews, right? So in that scenario, and for me, for any scenario, right, I don't care what you review it because I'm gonna buy the game anyway, right? I play what I want to play, right? But it's the casuals, the person who doesn't follow this stuff, who gets swayed by nonsense and may miss a great game, right? Because somebody said, "Oh, it's a 4," right? So it's you feel bad for the developers, which is probably why some of the Bethesda's developers gave some smoke back, right?
Yeah,
y'all motherfuckers don't even know how games work, telling me how we should do this and that. You do it then, right? Like, because as a developer, that's how you feel when you work hard on something, and then somebody's like going
and
out of their way to tear it
mouth
down.
breathers who have no
Right,
idea what a code even looks like have to come and sit here and talk all this smack.
You couldn't code "Hello World," you know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
You got like all this smoke for how Bethesda should have designed their game, right? And it's like, it's just silly. It's more silly because, when have we ever seen this kind of behavior, right? Like, right, the day before a game comes out, you got a company that's downplaying it, who's supposed to be reviewing it. Like, who does that, right? Just I've never seen it in all my years of gaming.
Stella Chang saying something a few days before the game comes out and putting that negative light out there when you're working for IGN. Like, come on, you should know what you're doing here. Like, what's going on?
Right, you don't do that by mistake, right? It's kind of target. It is targeted, right? So people, it's annoying because when you say it, people say, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Like, bruh, like if I see you disrespect my dude, right, and I say, "Yo, you being disrespectful," you tell me you not, then you lying to me, son, because I see it, right? So it's like, oh, don't believe your lying eyes, that kind of shit. So
basically, it's gaslighting. Yes, that's what that is. Indeed.
Right.
And I think that's what brings up a lot more, right? That's what stops the conversation of Xbox techs and all this other stuff to never go away. Because you're basically telling people to stop believing their lying eyes. And that's BS because they see it. And the more you talk, the more they see it. And then you just keep telling them they're not seeing it. And it makes the whole situation worse, right? You can easily just be like, I'm sorry?
There are 4 lights. Star Trek reference.
Yes, there are 4 lights. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. You know what I mean? So, we will leave the conversation there. I just think that ultimately, even after all the hay was made in this scenario with all of this, I'm happy that this game has transcended some of the negative aspects of that people try to throw at it, right? Clearly there are definitely some criticisms to be levied, right? But for me anyway, I think I would consider it a generational game. Like, just by hours played alone, I would consider it a generational game. I think it's absolutely amazing. So I'm definitely there with that.
I would go further to say that even just beside the hours played, it's the impression it left on this in the gaming sphere, right? And clearly it left a mega impression. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's one of the most talked about games of the year. It is my game of the year as well, even despite the score that I gave it. And being critical on certain things I would like changed. I still thought it was, the time I put into it was very unique to me, where I felt I haven't experienced this in any other game this year. You know what I mean? There were some other games that had better moments. I would say Star Wars, for instance, had a moment where I screamed out loud like a kid. Like, it was a specific moment where I was like, whoa, like, shouting because it was so dope. Playing Hogwarts, I had moments where I was just like in awe, like, wow.
Yep.
So there's things that I think outshone it as far as certain moments, but as far as complete feeling and experience that I took away from it, I think this took the cake, so to say, this year for me. So I think it can be a generational game, and I think it will be just because of the merit that it's going to continuously be worked on with
be worked on.
With DLCs and expansions rather, and mods. So yeah,
absolutely.
And I want to.
How about you, Lucius? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say one thing about the whole disingenuous argument stuff. A lot of the people who wanted to sit down and have a conversation about, okay, here are the critiques that I have for Starfield. Whenever I sit down and listen to those people, it becomes more and more evident to me that that person has not played the game as long as I have. And that's
most people haven't played the game as long as you have.
This isn't saying that you have to put 200 plus hours into something.
Yeah.
But this is like this person is saying this. I don't think they've played the game for more than 10 hours.
If you haven't embraced the Unity, there's nothing for us to talk about.
Like
in a game like this where the Unity and the loops and all of that really tell you what's going on. If you haven't at least done it once and had that pivotal moment, it's like if you have watched this movie and by M. Night Shyamalan and you haven't gotten to the twist, you haven't seen his movie.
Yeah,
you have not gotten there yet.
Step out moment for the game, right? I think I saw a reviewer say that Todd said there were 3 step out moments, but he didn't find it, right?
The third step out moment is that is
post
roll
moment. Yeah, that post roll. That's when you're out there in the stars and it's like, okay, this is so.
And you meet someone and the story and they talk to you like this is the first time they've spoken to you, and you remember them from the beginning of the game, and it's just the tiniest bit different, and you're just like, huh, interesting. That's when it goes, like decisions matter, all of a sudden all that stuff, like it is quite special. And that's why I feel like you're telling me like, those are people who haven't played the game. That's why I feel like those reviewers did not play the game, because I never heard anybody talk about the fact that this thing is as revolutionary like New Game Plus. No one's ever done this before. And tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah,
only
a few people I saw speak on it in that way. That was like Paul Tassi, to his credit.
Yeah.
And
so that tells you he's played it.
Yeah,
right?
But Paul's review actually reflected that he had played deep enough to the game, right? He understood those mechanics. Like review, right? So
Bethesda games are all about mechanics and about systems and how they merge and stack on top of each other. And if you don't understand that, if you're not exploring those systems, you're not even getting into halfway through the game. Just a little bit of lore from on my side. Like my first job out of college was testing out flight simulators on a Navy base for like a private company who was doing a bunch of stuff that I can't talk about. But like I used to test, like that was the thing that I did. I was testing out flight simulators and getting into Starfield and flying my ship for the first time. It felt like it did when I was testing out those flight simulators and testing out different aircrafts like the F-35, the F-6, the F-16, the F-18, and like messing around with the different configurations there. It felt very similar to me when I'm like flying the ship and have to mess around with the energy systems throughout my ship to be able to make sure that the weapons that I'm trying to use right now have the energy that they need for the moment. And just the idea of like constantly balancing those things is something that I almost didn't see anyone talk about, and it's such a pivotal part of like the entire game that I'm like, did you guys even play it?
You only heard me talk about it, and you heard me talk about it in the context of it's exactly like Elite Dangerous, which has exactly the same system, which I thought was super cool. Like I've never seen anybody use Elite Dangerous as systems like that, where, at this moment I'm getting shot, I need to put more to the shields. But if you put more to the shields, now your lasers are low and your maneuverability goes down because you don't have so much to the thrusters. Very cool system. Like it keeps you on your toes. Star Citizen does as well. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because Star Citizen pulled from Elite Dangerous as well, right? So they're all the same kind of like hard if space exploration by humans was really, really something we were doing today, how would it work in a real way? Like flight sim approach to space exploration. That's games like Elite Dangerous and all that. Yeah, very, very dope. So all of this is why I'm just like, I scratch my head and I go, really? Y'all gave it that score? Like y'all thought it was like that? Like it's just I will forever be flabbergasted at how where this game fell in the public conversation versus how I've taken to it. I think it's like brilliant. Now I will continue to play this game while all the other games come, and I've come to a different place in my mind with it, where it's like Starfield is going to be here, like a Grand Theft Auto Online. Like it's something that's always going to be in the background that people just keep playing while other things happen as well. Starfield will always be in my rotation to the point where I'm just like, don't ask me if I'm playing Starfield because the answer is probably yes. Right. In addition to whatever else I'm doing.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been playing this for years.
Yes. I will tell you, probably in the next 2-3 years, I will still be, I'm level 100 and whatever. Like we'll just keep plugging away at it because there's always more to see. Right. So you know what? I will take one last round from each of you. Give me your final thoughts on this game. Give me your experience here. Are you going to continue playing it? Will you put it down? Will you, how are you feeling with it? Have you had enough and moved on, or are you like me going to kind of keep it as part of your life? I will start with you, Umbra. And before I even let you answer, I will say once again, thank you so much for being here, sir. And when you answer that question, go ahead and tell folks where they can keep up with all your fine things that you do, you and Mr. Daniel McGee on the Fix. Tell all the fine people where they can keep up with your ongoings and maybe subscribe to your channel as well.
Yes, sir. One of the things we talked about is genuineness and integrity. And I'm glad to have been on a panel with such men of integrity and genuine takes. You know what I mean? I know that in speaking with you brothers outside of this, and I appreciate you not only just for your intelligence, as you always hear me, champion you 4K, but Lucius and Pixel for yours as well. I'm always not only amazed but happy to see intelligent black men and women. Always, it brings a smile to my face. I can't quite put a finger on it, but I get proud when I hear people with genuine just intelligence as you guys exhibit. But just to say, as far as where you guys can find me, of course on Twitter X, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite, you will find me either way. The Fix on Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern. And I'm on part of the other podcast as well, but I'll leave it for that. But one of the things I will mention as far as the takeaway I got from this game, I'll call it the 3 B's. I'll call it that. How about that? Beautiful, boring, but bold. And so it's boring, not in a negative, and none of those in a negative, because the game is meant to have boring moments of where you're not supposed to necessarily, and it's a horror fiction, right, in a way, and a space punk and all that, as Lucius was pointing out. So it's supposed to have moments of you just exploring and not having bombastic Call of Duty dude bro moments all the time. It's supposed to be where sometimes space is boring, but it's beautiful, bold, and boring. That's the best way I can explain it. And the way I came with it was an 8.5 out of 10. My game of the year, and I think it will eventually be seen as a game of the generation, despite the hate.
Excellent take, sir. Always excellent to have your takes on the shows that we do and have you part of the community, sir. Appreciate what you do. Thank you so much for being here. How about you, Mr. Pixelbit G? What are your final thoughts on this game? All of that, and also let the people know where they can keep up with your ongoing.
Damn, I mean, who wants to follow up Umbra with that shit? God damn, bro. He put it beautifully, though. He put it beautifully. I mean, I'll be playing this for a while. I mean, this is there's generally like one game in a generation that I kind of just stick to, right? Prior to it was like The Witcher 3. Last gen it was kind of State of Decay 2, and this gen it'll be this. Just one of those, because it's kind of a. Sometimes it's my chill game. Right? I go and I'll farm a little bit, or I'll base build, or I'll do some missions. Like I kind of choose what I want to do, like what activity I want to do, and I just go there and hang out. Right? And some of these, the planets are so beautiful that you could just go and hang out. So I'll definitely be playing more. As usual, man, it's beautiful being invited with any of you guys on this panel. You know what I'm saying? First time with my man Lucius. We got to do that again. Umbra, as always, it's a pleasure with you. And Kay, y'all put me on, so always appreciate you, man. You know what I'm saying? So you can find me on X under Pixelated G. Hopefully you'll find me doing some pods eventually.
Hey now.
Working through some things. Yeah, I'm working through some things, trying to get my time in order. Time is a hard and valuable thing for me nowadays.
Yeah.
But definitely, I want to get my opinion out there in the streets a little bit more, outside of just blasting people on Twitter all day. So
outside of being the hammer that just bangs people on the head or whatever need be.
You know what it is? Ever since I was a kid, I just don't like bad takes, man. Like if you honest with it and you real, fine, I mind my business. But if it's just out of the field nonsense, I'm like, bruh. You know what I'm saying? I can't let it slide. Like, did you read that? I'm one of those people, but I try to be more measured on shows, right? So, but again,
always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. Absolutely. We consider you and the folks in the chat, the folks on the panel here, very much part of the GCP fam, and we can't do this without y'all. And we have great guests and all this. Some days, like, the best shows we have are just when we have the boys together, we have conversations, and you're very much part of that. So appreciate you for being here as usual. Appreciate all your takes that you put in here, and of course Lucius Augustus, who dropped a nugget or two here and there as to why he is not to be seen or not to be hunted down anywhere. Sir, I appreciate you being here. It's been a while for me trying to get you on any kind of air. I won't ask you where to find you, because the answer to that is nowhere, ladies and gentlemen, nowhere. But please tell me what your final thoughts are about Starfield. I know you'll be continuing to play this for a while. How you feeling?
I will be playing this game 100% definitely until the next Bethesda game comes out. So I don't know
until what Arcane Leon releases Blade.
Yeah, probably.
There you go.
Yeah, but until I put so much time into Bethesda games. I love them so much. I appreciate what the team does. Nobody does it like them. And as much as I will always recognize that their games are not perfect, because they aren't, and in a lot of ways, people can point their flaws, and I will 100% accept that those flaws exist. But in a lot of times, it's the flaws that allow you to be able to see the true beauty of something. And I think that Starfield is uniquely and beautifully flawed in a way that makes it a very beautiful package for me. And if other people don't appreciate it as much, I think that that's totally fine, but I will not accept any disingenuous takes. With that, I want to say thank you, Kay Asante, for having me on. I appreciate opening your doors to me.
Brother, I hope we have you on more. Hope you'll jump on. Yeah. We appreciate your takes on these here parts, sir. And
I also want to thank my panel members, Pixelbit G and Umbra. I thank you guys so much for having me. And for the audience who ends up listening to this at some point, don't look for me. You don't need to know where I am. If you are the type of person that I will rock with, I will find you. Don't look for me.
There you go. He said, "Don't come find me. I find you." Well done, sir. Well done. So, okay.
Lucius, the elusive man.
Yes, he's the elusive man. He is straight up the elusive man. We should call him that from now on. He's the elusive man.
The Elusius man.
Well, you got to get an avatar with that, with him sitting in the chair.
That's right. With smoking the pipe, the whole thing. Oh, that's great. With the moon in the background. Come on. Anyway, this show will be on the feed during the Christmas weekend. So, at this point, you're probably anticipating Christmas. It's almost time. What we're talking about? We're talking about like the 23rd, probably the 23rd. Yeah, this will probably be in the feed on the 23rd. This is like 2 days before future Kay Asante's birthday. Bruh, those grades ain't that bad, man. 43 is fine. Calm yourself. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. But to everyone else who happens to catch this in the feed, whether it be live or on audio form, I say happy holidays to you. Whatever that may be that you celebrate, I hope you have a happy, healthy holiday. I hope nothing crazy happens. I hope you spend all the time with your family and enjoy yourself, play some games, and maybe this spoiler chat kind of either spurred you on to understand that, hey man, the game was better than you thought, and these people are being a bit disingenuous. Or if you're one of those people that don't care about spoilers, maybe this helps you, think about picking it up, because I personally think this game is something that we're going to continue talking about for quite some time. So once again, thanks to my panel members. Thank you to everyone who's been checking out all the shows and all the stuff over throughout the 2023 year. I think myself and Everborn will probably do a state of GCP episode coming in the feed before 2024. Obviously, he wasn't able to join us today because life happens, but I'm sure he'll have some takes next time we see him. So for him, for myself, and all the great panel members here, we say happy holidays to you, and thank you for checking it out. This was GCP Presents Starfield Spoiled.
Nice to be in orbit.